You all must have heard I'm a real nerd. People say I'm a fool, but they never got the news that I'm a wild one. Oh yeah, I'm a wild one. You better turn it up, better keep the channel down, cause you're watching Vilemike and his real wild child. Oh yeah, I'm a wild one. You better turn it up, better keep the channel down, cause you're watching Vilemike and his real wild child.
Howdy, folks. It's Vilemike here, and we got NB and Elihu already. How you guys doing?
I'm here physically, not mentally.
Today's my recovery day. I've actually had a busy last few days, busier than I've had in a long time.
Yeah, that's how it's been lately. The three younger Vile children were all in a play, and me and their mom have been trying to make sure that we went to, and they were ready for the play and everything. So
English or Spanish?
English.
Oh, okay.
It's not Mrs. Vile's nieces and nephews. My three younger kids.
Oh, okay.
So the two 13-year-olds and the 8-year-old, they were in the Wizard of Oz.
Oh, nice.
That's why in my little title for the stream, I have it as Wizard of Oz beats Oppenheimer beats Flash. Because those are the three things I watched in the last 3 days. And of course, I'm going to be a little bit biased, but I say the Wizard of Oz was the best thing I saw.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to spoil. Now, here's the thing. I'd say don't spoil Oppenheimer because my wife and I are going to see it tomorrow, but kind of already know how the movie ends.
Which version of Oppenheimer did you see?
What do you mean, which version? Elihu, you there?
NB, let me give you a heads up about Oppenheimer. There's two versions. The 180 millimeter version. There's no trailers. There's no previews. Movie just starts at 2:30. It starts. Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. God, I'm hoping that's the version I get.
You're dropping out a little bit for me. I don't know about it if you're doing the same.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. I can hear you a little bit. You're kind of dropping in and out, like Mike's saying.
I cannot hear anybody.
I can hear you, but now you can't hear us.
Okay, because I got. Okay, there is two versions. The 180 millimeter version. I can hear you. Hang on, let me switch.
Well, it wouldn't be a Vilemike stream if someone wasn't having technical difficulties. So,
is he on a delay or something?
I don't know what's going on. Maybe he'll have to reload or something. I will say that the framing device that they used is not what I was expecting, but it did make it very interesting.
The device? What do you mean? The camera usage?
No, the storytelling framing device.
Oh, okay.
As I said, it just wasn't what I was expecting, but it was very well done. There's like 4 different timelines going on at the same time. But they do it in such a way that it's fairly easy to understand what's going on.
Now, see, that's a good thing. If you can do the time jumps and make them fluid, that's always difficult. But if you do it, it can make a good story.
So
you're saying the time jumps are very fluid?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
We could hear you before. You just couldn't hear us. Can you still hear us now?
Yeah, I can hear you guys.
Okay.
By the way, Elihu, your side with all this funny controversy recently, I'm just going to say this. Just try that in a small town, buddy.
What are you talking about?
Just look it up, man. If you don't know, you've been under a rock.
Yeah, I've heard about it, but yeah, there was something that he posted about what would make San Francisco better, and it was literally getting rid of that guy.
Oh, yeah, yeah. That's yeah, that is actually a factor on here. Dean's an asshole. Dean's self-righteous. Dean doesn't care about himself.
Well, let's see.
He basically forced District 6 into his district, which reduced some of the funding to our area. Can't stand Dean.
Well,
yeah, but what I'm talking about is the whole Jason Aldean quote unquote controversy about his song. Try that in a small town.
I haven't heard that song.
Well, apparently it's a dog whistle for lynching, sundowns, and things like that. Unfortunately, that was like so grasping. That was like not even scratching the bottom of the barrel. That was literally scratching out the bottom of the barrel and now digging in the dirt. That's how fucking bad that fake controversy was.
I haven't heard that song, dude. I'm like, what are you
Well,
talking about?
I haven't heard the song either. I just know that I just from what I've seen on Twitter, and I honestly don't give a shit.
No, it's been, well, I kind of do give a shit because I live in a town, I am in a small town. And it was basically like, you know, like everybody else who did videos and responses to that. It's like, you just basically called all of us white. And said only white people live in small towns. That is the biggest bunch of bullshit.
Kind of like in 1991 when a certain famous actor who was a rapper back then, was talking about psycho killer, killing cops, cop killer. Gee, really? Does that mean that all black people are gangs and rapping? Rappers are gangs and killing cops, or are all anti-cops? No! It's a damn song, people. Come on.
Well,
you want to boycott this? Boycott Ice-T, okay? He came up with Cop Killer 91.
Well, here's how the song starts out.
Hold on, Abby. I just got to make the joke first.
Okay.
Then he becomes an actor where his most famous role is playing a cop.
Yeah. I was going to say something like that.
So this is how the song starts out. Sucker punch a guy on the street, carjack an old lady, rob a liquor store owner. And basically it's saying, you know, and then it's like, yell at a cop, spit in his face, burn a flag, step on the flag and burn it. Think you're tough. Hey, try that in a small town. And the point of the story is they're trying to spin this as, well, this is about racism against black people. I'm like, if that's what you think, that says a lot more about you, because what that says, what this song represents is the guy at the liquor store, that guy you sucker punch, that woman you carjack. That's not someone we don't know. I know the people who work at all the gas stations. I know the people who work at all the local restaurants.
The only part I would disagree on is the whole burning or stepping on a flag. Because one, burning the flag is how you're supposed to properly dispose of one. Two,
but not the way not that way. There's a dignified way to do it. And
two, either way, it's still freedom of speech to do it. And the symbol should not out represent what it, or shouldn't mean more than what it represents.
So you're going after the one part there.
That's it. Well, as I said, I haven't seen this. I haven't seen or heard the song or anything. I'm just saying that if the song sounds like it's promoting violence towards someone who does something like that, that is bad, because that's just your First Amendment right.
Well, no, that's what you see. That right there is where you're completely wrong. It's not, we're going to beat the shit out of someone. We're just going to, we're going to do what they do. We're going to go up to them and we're going to like, that's bullshit. Don't do that here. Why are you even in our town doing it? Why come to somebody else's town and do that?
Well, you could have a lot of examples of people coming to someone else's town to protest on either way. You know what I mean?
Yes. And why? They're not. Okay. I'll give you a perfect. Never mind. Just shut up, Jess. Just shut up, Jess. That went on way longer than I meant it to.
Yeah. Let's go back to Wizard of Oz.
Yes. It was your Kids Play.
I was insanely proud of them. Both my daughters played 4 different roles in the film, in the play, so they had to do quick changes and learn a lot of dance moves, a lot of songs. And considering this was at the Magnolia Playhouse, okay, to understand how big of a deal that is, this Playhouse had Paula Poundstone in it and Seth Meyers doing their comedy bits this month. And my kids were also in a play at that Playhouse. So one of the biggest late night tacos was there, and so are they. So that's the level they were on, if you want to think about it. And they only had 5 weeks to get everything ready, including auditions. So the fact that they were able to pull it off, do over 6 performances in 3 days, was freaking nuts.
That's some commitment there. I will give it that.
And what's really funny is my son, we call him Turtle J on the channel. Each of the major performances, there was 3 major performances. He played a different Munchkin because they kept people kept getting sick because it was the little kids. So the first night he plays the Munchkin Mayor, and I'll when I post the videos, I'll try to show some of the pictures and stuff.
Yeah, cool.
The second one, he plays the town father. And the third one, he plays one of the Lollipop Guild kids. But because, they have different songs and sing different parts and do different, stuff. And he's slightly autistic. So the fact that he was still able to do it in such short notice, I'm really proud of him. So proud daddy.
That's awesome, buddy. So you said all of them had 4 different roles, or was it just your son?
In the play, both my daughters had 4 different roles.
Gotcha.
That they did all in every performance. My son just rotated his roles with each performance.
Hey, Mike, I'm gonna mute real quick. Wife needs to talk to me.
Okay. And we already talked about Oppenheimer a little bit. Elihu, have you seen Flash? Are you there?
Physically or mentally?
I
have.
Either or.
I've seen Flash a couple times.
Yes.
Okay.
I've seen a
I
couple.
finally saw it this weekend because it finally became on for streaming.
Mm-hmm.
I am thoroughly disappointed in it.
Okay.
On a scale of 1 to 10, what did you think about it?
A 7.
See, I would give it maybe a 4 at best.
I gave it a 7 because of the storyline. People do not like Ezra Miller because they think he's all campy and candy, because that's why they refuse to watch the movie. I'm like, okay, that's the reason why you should watch the movie, because this guy actually grows up. The character actually matures. You're tired of the whiny, bratty teenager wannabe Flash? Don't worry, he doesn't exist anymore. This guy grew up. He matured. This movie you should watch if you hate the immature Flash.
I would disagree, because while the story was about him growing up, they also introduced a worse version of him that's even more whiny and annoying. Let's see. Daylight. I still haven't seen any recent movie releases. Too lazy and too broke to bother. Nothing makes me want to go. Well, I was able to rent Flash on Vudu for because I have a Vudu account and everything, it only cost me like $1.99 to watch the standard definition version. And I don't think the fact that I watched the standard definition version is the reason the computer effects were so bad. And then me and Mrs. Vile watched Oppenheimer down in Mexico, so it was like $12 for both of us to watch it.
When Flash finally got released on digital, I'm seeing on Twitter, wow, now Flash is on digital, the CGI looks even worse than before. I'm like, wait a minute, you complaining that it's on digital, complaining, which means you didn't see it in the theater. It's the same version.
Well, to me, the grand spectacle at the end looked to me like some little kid playing with his action figures.
The end credits?
No, I'm talking about the big action piece at the end. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Where they do all the cameo stuff?
Yeah.
It, to me, everyone looked like an action figure. So it looked like if some kid was like, I'm going to have my Superman battle your Superman. It looks stupid. And this is supposed to be the big freaking climax. I mean, I was thoroughly disappointed with that. The whole point of the movie is Flash is trying, for those who haven't seen it, I'm going to spoil a little bit only because it's in the fucking comic books. So if you ever read Flashpoint, you'll know what I'm talking about. Flash goes back to try to save his mom. After he does so, she becomes a null quantity. I mean, she doesn't matter to the rest of the storyline until the very end. And it's just stupid. I mean, he spends more time trying to get in Supergirl's pants than he does caring about his mom.
I actually saw the ending, particularly the ending, when he's in the apartment with Iris. I'm like, okay, so he's going to go change the tomatoes. No, he doesn't. Okay. Oh, now he changes the tomatoes. I'm like, gee, I just figured this whole thing out before this whole hour and a half of fiasco shit. I'm like, dude, come on.
Not to mention, he doesn't learn his fucking lesson. The whole thing is, it's not good to go back and try to fix your old mistakes because they make you who you are, and it could, in this case, destroy the universe. And what does he do at the end? He still changes the fucking timeline. I can't blame the guy for trying to get with Supergirl. Yeah, I can kind of understand that too. But, I mean, when you're talking about, do I save my mom or do I try to bang Supergirl?
The dude confirmed that Barry is not in his original timeline because there is no guy dressed like Barry when he goes back to fix everything standing in the hallway in the store. In the original, there's no guy there. So that means he actually did not go back to his original timeline to switch the tomatoes.
The whole timeline, it was kind of Back to the Future 2-y. You know what I mean?
Eric Stoltz was the bomb!
Oh.
Oh, and Richie, I actually saw Indiana in the theater, and the funniest part was not in the movie, it happened in the theater. There was two about 80-year-old women sitting behind me, within about the first 10 minutes of the movie. This woman, one woman's like, this isn't Indy. We should go see that Tom movie. Let's go. It's when Indy's all in his shorts, his boxers, all topless, all skinnies. I'm like, hey, that was funny, ladies. They didn't come back.
That was definitely more funny than anything else. I haven't seen it. I honestly have no interest in seeing the new Indiana Jones until, kind of like Flash. I'm gonna wait till it's available for streaming.
It was $11. It was cheap for me, so
yeah, that was basically my weekend so far.
Oh, those old scientists.
You okay?
Yeah. Those old scientists, Strange New World episodes is already out.
Say that again?
The Boiler and Mariner episode crossover for Strange New Worlds is already out on Paramount Plus.
Oh, I haven't checked.
And there's a brand new opening sequence to this episode.
I Sorry, airplane going over. I'm trying to mute myself.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet. Obviously, I did catch up to episode 6 of Strange New Worlds, but honestly, I don't remember what the fuck I watched at this point. I mean, you'd have to tell me about the episode so I'd remember what it was. That's how unmemorable they seem to be to me. I don't know what it is. Strange New World is not grabbing me the way that everything else did.
Remember in TOS when Deanna Troy had that strange dream about that aliens trying to get that hydrogen into the atmosphere with this trying to contact her through subconsciousness with dreams, that sort of stuff? Same plot points, but it's Uhura.
Yeah.
That's what I thought that episode was. Like, this is Deanna Troy all over again, but it's Uhura. One moon rising, one moon circle. Like, come on.
Yeah. I was confused because I think I watched that one and the one where Spock becomes human at the same time.
Oh.
So.
Yeah, the bowl cut is generic. Is genetics.
I was a little disappointed in the Spock becomes human one because, you know, he still had the same memories. He shouldn't know everything he knew beforehand. How did he suddenly become an idiot?
I don't know. And you can easily tell Ethan was wearing a wig. There's one close-up shot where when he was trying to mess with DePaul, when we see DePaul again the first time, he had a wig on everything and those fake plastic ears. You can tell that was a wig over his forehead.
So I hear from some people who enjoyed Crystal Skull that the new one is not good.
Yeah, the new one. I already know about that, the Karen device. Like, what the hell is this shit? That's nothing to do with Archimedes.
Well, I'll be honest with you, okay? There's only 2 really good Indiana Jones movies, and that's the first one and the third one. Even the second one sucks. And yes, it does, NB. I'm sorry, Temple of Doom is the, Temple of shit.
Kalima!
I was just watching that the other day. No, seriously, I was watching the Temple of Doom the other day. I don't know. It popped up on Disney Plus, and I was like, I want to watch the Temple of Doom. I still like it. I don't care if you think it's shit. It's certainly better than Crystal Skull. Can we at least agree to that?
Yes, I will say that it is better than Crystal Skull, only because as a history buff, I know that the Crystal Skulls are fake bullshit. So the fact that they made a movie around them kind of pisses me off to begin with. And the fact that they did the trope of it being related to aliens, it was like, okay, they just pulled a Star Trek or Stargate episode out of their ass.
Interdimensional beings, not aliens.
Tomato.
I will agree with that. And I will agree with Daniel.
I agree. The second one was not good. I wanted to rip that annoying woman's heart out myself.
Willie was annoying.
I agree.
Willie
I will give you that. Willie was annoying. I will give you that.
And Richie's even saying Crystal is better, infinitely better than Doom.
Oh, Richie, man, we got to get your head examined there, buddy.
Well, there is a nice little Easter egg in the new Indiana Jones movie in the first 10 minutes.
I don't care.
Neither did I. I heard there was an Easter egg. I'm like, okay, what kind of Easter egg? I saw it and I'm like, holy shit, that's a surprise. I actually spotted that.
I don't care. I'm not going to see it. No, I'm not going to see it. I have no interest.
As I said, I'll wait till it's available for streaming, just like I did for Flash.
Oh.
I can tell you this.
Is Flash actually available for streaming right now?
Yes.
Yeah. If you have a Vudu account...
What is it on Max?
No, if you have a Vudu account, it was available for $2 for standard definition for, like, the first day.
Oh, I'm not paying for that fucking thing.
It was $2.
I can do better with $2.
To me, $2 was worth it. So
hey, that's a $2 soda for me.
I can watch porn for free.
I did also recently watch finally the new Transformers movie, and I was also disappointed with it. I don't know if I talked about this last week.
Are you wondering why Optimus Primal didn't do anything when Megatron attacked 10 years later?
No, I didn't care about that because, as far as I'm concerned, Bumblebee and the new one are a new timeline.
This is '89. This is before everything all happened. Come on.
I'm saying, as far as I'm concerned, because they reintroduced Unicron in a different way than the what was it, Age of Extinction or the Last Night or whatever it was?
Last Night.
Because in the Last Night, Unicron was the Earth. Now he's not, so it's a different timeline.
Did you like the Mark Wahlberg reference?
Not really.
I thought that was kind of funny. It was inter movie trope. I love that line. That was funny.
I was disappointed in it because it was the same exact shit they pull in every Transformers movie.
I heard Mark Wahlberg's giving up singing and going to acting.
Do you know what cracked? Do you want to know what cracked most of us up? The people I knew between the first Transformers and the second Transformers movie. The guy who played the Tyrese, the guy from Fast and Furious.
I know who you're talking about, but I can't remember his name right now.
Yeah. Anyway, so he was a tech sergeant in the first movie. We get to the second movie, which is like a year later or something, and he's a chief master sergeant. And every one of us in the Air Force were back at work on Monday, just roasting that fucking thing. It is not possible for a guy to go from go from E6 to E9 in a year. I don't care what he did. That is impossible.
Well, to be fair, fighting off intergalactic robot aliens might be a way to skip
not enough. Not enough. You see, it doesn't represent the whole airman concept. Just because he fended off an alien invasion, did he have his volunteer stuff? Did he have his self-improvement? What's he done for education? And no, I'm not shitting you. These are really things that were on our evaluations.
Well, maybe they
just... And by the way, saving the Earth is maybe 2 bullets at best. If you word them differently, you might be able to get it, but you can't make the whole EPR about him saving the world. Because there's parts of like, well, we can't really say that's self-improvement that he saved the world. What did he do that was self-improving during saving the world? Did he get any education during that saving the world time? No, I'm dead serious.
Yes, he did. He knew how to run faster.
No, that was PT. That was his PT training.
I'm sorry. He calculated the speed and distance between him and the Transformer to be able to escape correctly. That's education.
Nope. Okay, but yes, but how fast can he run a mile and a half? How many push-ups, sit-ups can he do in 60 seconds? And what is his waistline?
He can run 17 miles. He can run 17 miles an hour in a mile and a half. He can do 300 push-ups in 3 minutes. And his waistline is 34.
Oh, his waistline is 34. Penalty.
Hey, you got that gut, man. Come on.
Hey! I'm telling you what. No. Back when they first came up with that weight measurement thing, the standard was men to get max points, you had to have a 32-inch waist.
I got 32 right now.
Yeah, you got a 32-inch because you a skinny motherfucker.
Let
me tell you something.
The last item. Hold on, NB. I'm going to read the quote. Maybe he already had the other qualifications. The last item he needed for a big promotion was save the world from alien invasion.
Well, I will say this: him saving the world from an alien invasion would get him a senior raider endorsement. Yes, I'm dead serious. I'm telling you how our evaluation is kind of funny like that.
Perhaps so many people were killed they had to fill in the upper ranks.
Yeah, what happened during the blip on Adventures?
No, you see the problem with that. Unfortunately, that would be nice, but it doesn't work that way.
Well, we don't really
do field promotions anymore.
And B, when I was playing Star Trek Online, I was a recently graduated ensign, and I immediately became captain when the entire command crew died. So,
Well,
there's evidence right there.
Yeah, Mike. That's called a field commission. You know the difference between a field commission and a commission, right? Okay, for example, you like history, right?
Of course.
All right. General Custer, what was his actual rank?
Lieutenant.
No, actually, not lieutenant. I believe he was lieutenant colonel.
Sorry, people still call lieutenants.
He was lieutenant colonel, but I believe he was field promoted. What was it? Was he brigadier general, major general, something like that? Anyway, he had a field promotion, but that wasn't his final rank because I believe on his tombstone it says lieutenant colonel.
Yeah, it's because it has to be approved by the brass after the fact. Just because it was on the field doesn't mean it stays that way.
After, I do have to also clarify that a battlefield promotion is not the same thing as a battlefield commission. Battlefield commission is when an enlisted person is temporarily assigned rank of officer. It's a battlefield commission, and so a battlefield promotion, for example, sometimes in times of war, a commanding officer can battlefield promote somebody, let's say, from Lieutenant JG to lieutenant or whatnot. But a battlefield commission is something that only the top brass can really do, and you have to have done something superhuman to do that in most cases.
Well,
it sounds like Darren's. Sorry, it sounds like Darren's underwater when he's talking. Are you something wrong with your mic, dude?
No, there's nothing wrong with my mic.
Oh.
No, there's nothing wrong with his mic. I heard about. Yeah, Darren. I think what you're saying is, like for example, in say a combat situation, they don't have a lieutenant available, so they take one of the senior sergeants and give him, a battlefield commission of lieutenant.
Right.
Take over that role of that leadership position.
Right. And there's been other push button rank situations like that too. The two Navajo guys that were they were offered a very sweet deal. They because they were the only two human beings alive who understood and could translate the Navajo language. They offered to, they want to come and join our army. We'll make you full lieutenants. And then one of you will be in the United States, the other one will be in England, and you'll just be sending each other messages in Navajo, translating messages we want to send across the pond in Navajo, because the Axis powers would look like, the Axis powers would look at a sheet of Navajo and like, what the hell? It has no basis in any other language, so there's no way they could have cracked it. It's one of my favorite stories.
It was one of the greatest codes ever come up with.
Yeah.
I believe there was even a documentary when it was declassified that some of the people who were on the intel of Japanese were actually very impressed when they found out what they were trying to translate. They were like, "This was just we couldn't break it."
Right. Nobody else knew that language because it was mostly a spoken language. And Navajo really didn't write it down, but these two guys wrote it down, and they knew what the language was, and they knew what they were saying. Nobody else could possibly have known.
Well, wasn't it also that they not only did they take the language, but they took the language and they coded it. So not only did you not know the language, the only people who knew the code they were talking about were them.
Yeah.
It had an extra layer in that regard. Yeah.
Yeah. As far as what we'd call that is literally OPSEC. I mean, because crypto wasn't crypto wasn't a thing then. You couldn't crypto your shit. You couldn't freak op it like we can do now.
Right.
And so code talk. Enigma was made as code. Enigma, one of the strongest codes that was ever created, and then ours was. The Navajo code talkers, the wind talkers.
Another example of a wartime commission were the doctors in MASH, the novel. They were basically drafted out of third year and second year medical school.
Oh, really?
And they didn't go to like an OCS program because it wasn't time for that. So they basically had like like a 2-week crash course on the military command structure and stuff, and then they sent them over to Korea, and that's why guys like Hawkeye Pierce. And I'm speaking specifically of the movie, not and the book, not the TV series. But that this is why Hawkeye Pierce steals a Jeep in the beginning of the movie. He doesn't really understand that you're not supposed to do that. And they were given so much latitude because they freaking needed doctors on the front, and they got away with so much stuff because they weren't part of that. They weren't, they were in the army, but they weren't really in the army, in terms of their attitudes and things.
Yeah, as far as I know now, medical commissions, they don't necessarily go through, as far as I know, they don't go through OTS, they don't go through OCS. They go through a different, a stripped down version of officer training when they come in.
Yeah. Yeah, there's ways of getting the personnel you want, and, but all those medical stuff. I mean, it used to be that if you wanted to avoid war, you went to college. Well, here were these guys in medical school who were going to get drafted anyway, and they had literally 20-hour work days because it was all constant triage of guys coming in and stuff. So. They were a different generation of people, of Americans.
One of the things I'm sorry, Mike.
I was going to just say, we kind of drifted a little bit far from what I was trying to say about why I hated the Transformer movie.
Wait a minute, we went from Transformers to MASH.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, at least it's still a TV show.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things
related.
Well, one of the things I will say, and then I'll shut up, Mike. Sorry.
What? You shut up? No way.
Was
one
of the things was after
glass.
being in the military for 20 years and a lot of it being during wartime, the humor in MASH I understand so much better as an adult now than I ever did as a child.
Right.
Oh, I can agree with you there. My mom, that was one of my mom's favorite shows. She'd watch like every rerun. So I would watch it with her on occasion, and I'd say like 1 in 10 jokes hit me as a 7-8-year-old kid. And I watch an episode now, and even though I've never served, I know enough military guys and I know enough history to be like, holy shit.
Yeah. Well, again, the show is a different animal though than the movie and the book, and the books plural. Yeah.
I tried to watch the movie. I grew up on the series. I can't watch the movie. It's so different. It just doesn't, it just is what it is there. But I remember this is a show my dad used to watch with me. I mean, this was like our bonding time. This was one of the few things my father and I bonded through. And I remember this episode so well. And I think a lot of you who watched it will remember the Colonel Blake episode of him going home.
Uh-huh.
I remember when the last part of the episode, I'm thinking, oh, it's so great. He's going home. That's nice. And then Radar comes in.
I know that announcements. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm, mind you, I'm watching this in syndication. It's about 1986. I'm 6 years old. And I remember Radar coming in, and I remember I'm like 5-6 years old, and I start crying. I look at my dad and I'm tearing up, and I'm like, he didn't make it home? And my dad was like, no. And dude, my dad had to pick me up because I was bawling.
Yeah. The show went from being a comedy that was occasionally dramatic to a drama that was occasionally funny at around the 50% mark. And that's when Alan Alda started really taking over as showrunner of the show, or behind the scenes anyway. But even in the movie, I know you don't want to watch the movie because you like your actors from the show. But I mean, Rene Auberjonois, the guy who played Odo, is in that movie as the chaplain. So I mean, it's worth watching just for him to see what he was like as a young man. But the scene at the end when Tom Skerritt, his character, comes running in to tell Hawkeye that they got the orders, we're going home, and he stops for a second. And they had fully adapted to the lifestyle by this point, and going home was like a foreign concept to them. They couldn't believe, there were so many mixed emotions. You know what I mean? About, they knew it was supposed to be a good thing that they were going home, but they're not quite as happy as they thought they would be there because there's some trade-offs now, and that's something I think that a lot of guys, when they get out, no matter the circumstances, they relate to, and it's very dramatic. Okay, Transformers. What was it about Transformers that you didn't like?
Okay.
Beast Wars.
No, I like Beast Wars. Okay, that's why me and Commodore Ty were actually reviewing it on his channel for a while.
Yeah.
My issue was, it's the same exact thing that all my other Michael Bay Transformers movies have done plot-wise. It's a loose connection of Transformers to a previous Earth civilization.
Yeah.
Big lasers in the sky, and countdown to try to stop it at the very end with a lot of CGI battles.
Hey, you just described the very first Transformers movie.
I have described every Transformers movie except Bumblebee.
Yeah. See, what they need to do is find the episodes of the Gen 1 and watch that to get some new ideas, because they didn't do that every episode of the show. They actually had some fairly decent ideas that could be combined and recalibrated into a major motion picture. But for some reason they just don't want to do that. They want to do the formula, apply the formula every time. And
that's it. To me, that's what is the worst part about it. I mean, the first movie we had, it was Hoover Dam and that connection to modern technology. The second movie was Ancient Egypt. The third movie was, which one was the third movie? I can't even remember because they're all the same.
Optimus. Yeah.
Was it Dark of the Moon?
Dark of the Moon, then Last Night.
Okay, so we got Dark of the Moon, which is connection to the Apollo moon landing.
11.
Age of Extinction, connection to the extinction of the dinosaurs. The Last Night, the connection to ancient
medieval England.
Well, yeah, not just medieval. It's like ancient England, because it's before the medieval times. So every single one, it's the same exact thing. And each of them have the big laser in the sky that we were making fun of that every movie was doing back in the day.
It's like, remember what we told you to hear before? Well, we were here earlier than that. Remember what we told you before that? Well, we were here earlier than that. Yeah, I know what you mean.
And now the whole connection is, now it's instead of the Egyptians, it's the Mayans, because we got to have the other pyramid building race that everyone knows of on the planet.
Right. Hey, at least the Beast Wars did the moon part. They had the ship from the Dark Moon there as well, and they also had the partially destroyed Egyptian pyramid. They had that part of the continuity in that.
Mm-hmm. What happened to on the cartoons? One of the prevailing plots that the bad guys are always trying to do is they're always trying to, basically they're trying to rob the Earth of as much energy as possible to take it back to Cybertron to power their war.
Yeah,
and that idea, I wonder why they haven't continued that. And maybe it's because they don't want to start talking about energy in these movies, because that is a bit of a politically charged.
And each time it's a different Cybertronian MacGuffin. I mean, the first one, Allspark. Second one, Matrix, or the the device that was inside the pyramid. The third one, it's the transwarp or the space bridge stuff. And what was it? Age of Extinction. It was what was the MacGuffin in that one? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, that machine to turn the Earth into.
To metallicize the Earth.
Yeah.
And the fourth or the fifth one, it's the whole keys to call or wake up Unicron. And in this one, it's the freaking transwarp key. So they just combined the freaking space bridge and the Unicron key thing. So it's like, it's the same fucking thing. Give us something different. Don't just add new characters.
So why do you guys keep going and watching the same shit? It's gonna suck.
Because I thought that maybe this will be like Bumblebee and be different. Bumblebee is still by far the best one.
No, if I'm gonna be honest, I can't even remember the last Transformers movie I saw. What was the one before Last Night?
Age of Extinction.
Oh wait.
Age of Extinction? No, I didn't see that one either. What was before that? Dark Side? That was probably the last one I saw.
And the part that really gets me is they got some great actors doing the roles. Let them have some plot or character development.
Yeah. Do you know why? Because for the longest time, television shows relied on a formula too. The Dukes of Hazzard was essentially the same episode every week. The Hulk was to Charlie's Angels. I mean, they all had the same thing at the bottom half of the hour. This has to happen. Towards the climax, this has to happen. And it has to end with everybody laughing or whatever. And that was because that was what the gods of television, right? The producers, the heads of the studios, who had some success when television was a baby. They came up with this formula that they thought that everybody would like, and they would adhere to it. And it reminds me of when Married with Children came out, and you had Fox. It was a brand new channel, right? Married with Children was part of their original lineup, and the writers wrote their original pilot, and they shot it, and then they wanted the opinion of some old television guy from CBS, right? They brought him in like he was a visiting dignitary or whatever. He sat down, he watched the show, and he's like, well, as long as you can show that Al and Peggy love each other at the end of every show, this has a chance of working. And the two writers the show was written by only two writers, stood up and said, I'm sorry, but it's guys like this, they're the reason TV sucks. And they both walked out. And the big guy from CBS does a harumph and leaves in a huff, and they those two writers got their way. It was but yeah.
Yeah, but it's ironic because notice how Peggy and Al never cheat on each other.
Yeah, in the first handful of episodes, they actually do seem to love each other. But as the show went on, it became so much further from reality. It became a literal parody of other family sitcoms. Is what it became.
I know.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes, they toy around with the idea of them cheating on each other. But Peg goes to strip clubs, and looks at men and stuff like that, and tries to pick them up, and they think she's a little too much for them to handle, and she goes home, without anybody. Al goes to the strip club, tries the same thing, and just and they end up not. And there's times where he's still in this prison of marriage, that he's got to be faithful. Yeah.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, now remember, Al would be like the cheapskate at the nudie bar.
Right.
He'd be like the guy holding on to the dollar bill as the dancer's trying to take it.
Yeah, the guy who cheated, at least until he married Marcy, was the guy that joined the cast in the middle of the show's run. Jefferson Darcy. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was obviously a better looking guy.
Jefferson Darcy.
Yeah.
I'm a doll.
more of a gigolo that got trapped.
He was looking, but I mean, I watched behind the scenes of that stuff, and it was like literally his character was looking for a sugar mama.
Yeah.
Right. There was that too, but I mean, Darcy came with all kinds of baggage.
That he wasn't prepared for.
That he was not prepared for. No, her domineering attitude and tone was that, and it didn't help. It actually helped the show, I think, that Ed O'Neill did not get along with Amanda Beers. Yes. Why does he keep calling me a chicken?
I'm sorry, man. We're talking about Darcy. I had to do that.
Yeah. And it's funny too because Amanda Bierce's character in Fright Night was one of my first cinematic crushes. But nobody knew she was.
Fright Night, good movie.
Yeah, nobody knew she was batting for the other team back then. So
I
did. Her character certainly wasn't a lesbian. So that's how I knew her first, and then later we find out things.
I'm gonna be honest.
Okay.
I kind of figured it out. I kind of figured out she was a lesbian.
Well, okay. You got. I mean, yes. In I think in Married with Children, it could be asserted, but not in Fright Night. And that's what I'm talking about. Fright Night was when I first saw her. She was one of my first cinematic crushes. When I was a teenager watching that movie. So yeah, and then a little bit later on, you get older and you find out things like, oh, okay, whatever.
Well, I mean, Well, no, I mean during the show, Married with Children, and as you know, homosexuality started to come out more and be more acceptable at that time. I don't know. There was something that I guess just kind of like once she came out, everybody was kind of, oh yeah, that makes sense now. It was just like you kind of know, you kind of figured something was a little off. You just didn't realize it. And it was like, oh, okay, now that makes sense.
Well, she relished the anti-male jokes that she got to tell on that show. Even though a little bit later in the scene, usually, Ed O'Neill would get her back with some wisdom, but but she relished it. I mean, there was this running joke, of course, that she had no breasts. That there was a dream sequence where the whole cast was recast as pirates on a pirate ship, and everybody thought that Darcy was a cabin boy. And things like that, and she would, let me prove you I'm not a cabin boy. She rips open her shirt so that the audience can't see what she's showing, and they're like, and they're looking at her going, how are you going to do that? Totally ignoring the fact that she's bearing breasts, because the implicit was that she didn't have any.
Yeah, and Al was like, where? I remember that episode.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that show just had. That show was just fun, and it's one of those shows where it's like, okay, I know a lot of us with some genres, canon is important. Okay, don't even try to figure out canon in this series because I have all 10 seasons, and there's nothing that stays the same. I mean, there's been so many ways of how Christine Applegate's character became an idiot.
Right. Yeah, she went from being a groupie to a bimbo, promiscuous bimbo, and obviously also very stupid.
Yeah.
But she was still able to get the better of her brother, who was supposed to be smarter than her. But of course, his problem was that he didn't know how to deal with the raging hormones of being a teenager. And he would deliver. In fact, they even made fun of this later in the series. How every year he would create some new persona designed to get him laid. And
Grandmaster B.
Grandmaster B, Butterace. He was actually going to be like a Liberace. He was going to learn how to play the piano. He had the outfit and everything and stuff like that. It was just,
I forgot about that one.
Yeah, that was in the Hall of Fame. They built a set for his bedroom, and they showed like all the costumes he had worn for the last like 6-7 years.
Did we ever actually see the kids' bedrooms? I know we saw Al and Peggy's bedroom, but I don't remember ever seeing the kids' bedrooms. I don't think we did.
There was an episode where they decided to jump the shark with Bud Bundy and actually have him not be as interested in girls. Like it was the first year where they were not going to have him assume a new persona for getting chicks, and he had this weird sort of hallucination where the cool side of him was talking to him and trying to convince him to be more like the cool side of him, and they fight, and we don't actually remember who they don't tell you who won the fight, but Bud comes down and he is a little bit different, and that he doesn't do the whole Grandmaster Bud or whatever thing or anything like that after that.
I wanted to go back to Dandelion's comment about my complaints about the Transformers franchise, and she's saying you're asking for variety in a formulaic franchise. One of the most formulaic franchises of all frickin' time is Power Rangers. And some of the best episodes are exactly when they subvert that formula to tell a better story. Some of the best seasons are done that way, especially like In Space, and even some of the recent ones. Me and Caddy watched, I think it was Beast Morphers. It was a friggin' great season with a bunch of callbacks to the people old folks like me who grew up on it, and even the younger kids still enjoyed it. So yes, it is possible for a formulaic franchise to subvert expectations and do something really good.
Okay. And franchises do not have to be formulaic either. The idea of the formula came from, again, it comes from studio heads who think they know what people want when they're really not in cahoots with the general pulse of the audience anymore. And that's where you get into, like, for example, you ever see Barton Fink, the movie? They said that, are you going to make, yeah, well, with they hire this guy, Barton Fink, who wrote a bunch of really great plays off Broadway, and he's going to be a scriptwriter in Hollywood. And he said, and then they sit him down for his first interview after getting the job, and the studio head goes, okay, so are you going to write a boxing picture? He goes through like 4 different templates of movies that he could do. And he goes, and Fink goes, well, I think I should do a little bit of all of them. And the studio head looks at him like he's crazy, and that's a reflection of that kind of attitude. Transformers does not need to be formulaic. You could have a film that it doesn't have the formula you talked about easily. They did it in narratives in the comics and in the cartoons and everything. You just have to take those stories and augment them for a cinematic audience.
Okay, she goes, I was just teasing. You could deviate from the formula successfully, and it should. Exactly. That's why I liked Bumblebee so much comparatively.
It's funny.
I have not seen Bumblebee.
When I watched the first Transformers movie, I was convinced that military unit that Scorponok fought in the desert was going to become the basis for G.I. Joe. The black guy reminded me a little bit of Roadblock. You had the guy there, their leader, that kind of reminded me a little bit of Hawk. And I thought that was going to be a spinoff with those guys being G.I. Joe, and that their equipment was augmented by things they learned from the Transformers and things like that. And they never did that. Yeah.
Have you seen the new Beast Wars one at all?
No, but I have heard that they're trying to that they seeded a new version of G.I. Joe.
There's a mid-credit scene, and they introduce G.I. Joe as a concept to the franchise. So it looks like
G.I. Joe needs to be done. G.I. Joe needs to be done right.
Yeah,
last 2 we got were. The first one sucked. The second one, I wanted to demand my 2 hours back from Netflix.
Yeah,
okay, LDG.
For G.I. Joe, you have to go balls to the wall. Live action version of Destro, where he looks like Destro. I don't care if you have to use a CGI face for the metal, the chrome head, and you got to have Baroness in there who looks like freaking Baroness, and if you do that, just the fact that it looks like a live action version of G.I. Joe, a real American hero from the 80s, you will have people watching that movie.
Well, the problem I had with the movies, the first part I had a big problem with, was they tried to make everybody's code name their actual frickin' name. I was like,
the only G.I. Joe whose code name was actually his real name was Alpine.
Yeah.
His real name was Al Pine, which was the dumbest. I think whoever was coming up with names back then, when they came time to come up with his alias, they just said, screw it. They didn't want to, it was late. They wanted to go home. They said, I'll just take Alpine's real name is Al Pine.
Have fun walking in the woods.
Take care.
Later, Dandelion.
Yeah.
So I had so this was funny. We went. So I had an interesting experience yesterday. I went to the bowling alley and this happened. True story. I go in. We're going bowling. We're meeting my daughter's friends' parents to get to know them, and so I noticed they have a thing that says part-time work. I'm thinking, well, after I get back from vacation, wife and I are talking. I want to get a job. I want to do something to get out of the house. So I ask about the job, and I go, well, what are you hiring for? And they said, and the lady literally said, well, we're hiring for. She goes, we just really need workers. I said, what's going on? She goes, people aren't hiring. They're not applying. I'm like, what? Young people don't work in the summer anymore? She goes, not really. I was like, well, I'm retired and I'm just looking for some extra cash. I could do part-time. So it ends there. And we are bowling, we're talking, we're eating. This older gentleman comes out and he literally goes, are you the guy who asked about the job? I said, yes. He put an application down on my table. And I was like, I'll fill it out when I get back from vacation next week. He goes, oh, that's great, man. Fill it out and bring it back. So as I'm driving home, I'm like, wait a minute. If they need workers and they need them in. I was like, wait a minute. My son just turned 16. So I checked the laws and I call. They hire at 16. I'm actually talking with the hiring manager. She's like, yeah, what's your name? I'm like, yeah, Jess. She's like, okay, I just want to know so I can keep a lookout for yours and your son's application. Mm-hmm. And I was basically, I was like, I might have two jobs I might have two people to fill jobs for you. And basically, if I could see her on the other end, I think she was smiling.
Well, what's funny is Caddy is about to quit her job at McDonald's because she's always had some knee issues regarding her mom's side of the family. And basically her doctor was saying you need to spend less time standing at your job. So since she usually works drive-through, that should mean that they could easily provide her with a stool to sit on in order to work, right? Mm-hmm. Well, instead of providing her the stool, even though they're short-staffed, they proceeded to put her on 6 weeks of unpaid medical leave.
That makes absolutely no damn sense.
Yeah, that was more expensive than that was less expensive than a stool, huh?
Apparently.
Yeah.
So when I worked at, so like for example, okay, so that's interesting. So when I worked at the liquor store I was at, the ground was all concrete, and I had to put insoles in my feet because in my shoes because my back was killing me being on that. And we had a stool. And I moved it over to the counter, and I had the stool sit there. They go, and somebody's like, you can't sit there. I was like, let me explain something to you. I will not be sitting here when a customer comes in. But if nobody's in here, I'm going to need to sit on this thing. I cannot stand for 8 hours.
Right.
Unfortunately, I can't do that anymore. I used to be able to.
Yeah.
I've never been able to stand for more than 10 minutes.
And it's point about no one wants to deal with Karens for mediocre or bad pay. One of the only reasons I can deal with the Karens at my job is because I don't actually work for the stores I'm in, so I get to treat them just as bad as they treat me. Like for instance, last week I was doing my job, packing out the magazines at the registers. Well, this lady walks up to me because there's only one register open. The store only has 3 registers, and they only had one open. The self-checkout was virtually empty, but there was a line at the, you can't buy alcohol at the self-checkout. So you had to go to the one lone checker. And she walks up to me because I'm up there, and she goes, you need to open another register. And I'm like, I don't work here. I can't do it if I even wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah, I made the mistake one time after I got off work. I forgot to take my SentryTel work badge, the security badge we all had to wear that lets us through doors and stuff. I still had it around my neck, and I went to a Walmart, and some blue-haired bitch, older blue-haired bitch. This is back when only old women had blue hair, because they messed up the coloring on their hair dye. Accidental blue hair. Comes up to me and wants to know where a certain product is, and I'm like, why are you asking me? And it's just, don't you work here? And then that's when I realized, I have my badge on. Oh, I forgot to take my badge off. And I just took it off, put it in my pocket. Sorry, and she looked at me like I was disrespectful, and she told an actual blue shirted, blue vested Walmart person about me, and he didn't, nobody knew what to say to her, because it's like, well, we can't kick him out because he was curt with you. He's a fellow customer. If one of us had done that, we could take take one of them out to the, off to the side, maybe give him a little coaching, that kind of thing. But she demanded something. I think she demanded like a percentage off of her purchases that day. They're like, no, it's not. No, we're not going to do that. It was just, yeah.
You should have played with it and actually told her, "Oh yeah, go down to the far over there on fabric.
Well,
hang it right."
Well, actually impersonating an employee could actually get me, trespassed from the store. Yeah, I mean, I don't really want to, drive to the south side Walmart. So if I want to do something, the north side one is bigger and nicer anyway. So.
Hey, Mike, how late are you planning on running your stream today?
I have no idea at this point.
All right, I got to go out real quick. I got to pick up something for my son, so I'm gonna mute and be out for a little bit. If you're done by then, that's okay, but it's going to be about 20 or so minutes for me.
Alrighty. When you said security badge, reminded me of a story from one of the security guards at one of the Walmarts.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some of the Walmarts I have are at malls. Okay.
Right.
So you have the loss prevention guys who work for Walmart, who actually, are employees of Walmart. They're allowed in the back rooms. They have access to, the entirety of the store, more access than even I have as a vendor.
Right.
Then you have Walmart's paid security guys who mostly deal with the parking lots that are just for Walmart.
Yeah.
Then you have the mall security guys who, patrol the entirety of the mall.
Right.
This lady walks up to one of the mall security guys.
All right, I can already see where this is going, but go ahead.
Demands to him for him to go into the back room of Walmart to grab something that is not a Walmart product, that Walmart doesn't carry. That's only a Target item, which is in the same mall. And he was trying to explain to her, "Ma'am, I'm not allowed in Walmart's back room. I don't work for Walmart." And she threw a hissy fit. Like he said that she went on the ground wailing her arms and legs like a 5-year-old throwing a tantrum because he wouldn't help her.
Was her name Karen?
Well, that's the joke. I mean, they're all Karens. But I'm like, I can't believe someone would actually do that to you because you don't work here. They treat me like shit, and I'm at least allowed in the back room. I can't grab anything, without manager's permission, so it's not worth it for me to try to help somebody.
Yeah, I don't understand. The only thing I can think of is that these women are deeply unfulfilled. And maybe all of their teenagers have left home now, but they can't let go of that.
Darren, it's not just women though. I had one guy who walked up to me, as he sees me walking out of the back room. So he's like, "Oh, he must work here." He says, "Hey, can you get something for me?" And I said, "Sorry, I don't actually work for the store." He just looks at me and goes, "Well, you're fucking useless then," and walks off.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Well,
technically, he was right, man. Hey.
Well, in that instance, yes, you were actually quite useless to him, but not useless in a general sense. I think that's the difference there. Wow,
it's still the attitude,
he was technically right, dude.
Karen energy can be male or female, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I see South Park.
But Karens, as part of their definition, are female. I think it's because in our society we still to this day react to it a little bit differently when it comes from a female than when it comes from a male. We would just call that guy an asshole, but we would call a woman who does that a Karen.
No, I call them male Karens.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
but apparently the proper term, at least according to the internet and my children, the name of a male Karen is a Kevin.
Well, it could be worse. It could be Darren.
Never heard that.
I was always kind of afraid that might catch on, but now I feel safe because I hate the name Kevin. Kevin,
I find kind of funny because
and Tucker.
One of the Vile children has a cousin Kevin, and I also have a cousin Kevin, and sometimes I'd be like, "Yeah, that one fits."
Yeah, I agree with George Carlin. He says, we used to name kids, real names like Eddie, Steve, and Mike, and now we've got, Kyle, Tucker, and and Todd, and he's like, I tell you something, you grab any 3 boys named Kyle, Tucker, and Todd, and they'll get their ass whipped by any 3 other boys named Eddie, Mike, and Steve.
Darren, you know what's funny about that?
What's that?
My first name is Steven.
Well, great, you got it double. And
Yeah.
Vile Stevie Mike, whatever. But yeah, that was, and of course that was back in the late '80s when George Carlin did that stand-up routine. That's when we started seeing more of those boys' names. Nobody was naming their boy Henry anymore, for example. It was, and then the thing that really throws me off is when women or girls get a name that's basically a person's last name. So like Mackenzie is her first name, or Madison is her first name, or it's like, what a lovely name.
Well, when I was in junior high, I did have a guy in my class whose last name was Cole, Cole.
Right.
There was a girl in the same class that also had the first name of Cole, Koal, I believe.
Interesting.
So it was just spelled
Be
different.
glad your name is not Bill William.
Steve is a borderline name. Steve can get his ass kicked sometimes, which is probably why I go by Michael. Dandelion. So,
I found something at the grocery store, posted it on Facebook, and it's Mountain Dew hot dogs. Uncured beef franks blasted with original flavored Mountain Dew. They're green hot dogs with Mountain Dew logo on them. Now I know they got some weird shit in Japan, but we got some weird shit here too.
Yeah, I don't know if I would like those
as a novelty.
I mean,
it's one of those things.
If someone gave one to me for free, I'd eat one just to see what it was like, but I wouldn't buy it.
Right. Yeah, I would. You'd try one, and if you didn't like it, you'd feed the rest of your dog and see if he would eat it. That kind of thing.
Hey, there's wine-flavored Kit Kats available in Japan, okay?
Yeah, but they put...
Oh, yeah, there's all kinds of flavored Kit Kats. There's jalapeno-flavored Kit Kats in Japan. There's
jalapeno-flavored things here. I mean, I literally had...
or I see wasabi-flavored. And I mean, Kit Kat is like the most popular American confection in Japan because the word Kit Kat just happens to resemble a word over there that means good luck or good fortune. Yeah. And so that was that it was just happenstance, and they loved it. In fact, they have McDonald's over there, and I think I've said this before here. The number one product they sell is French fries drizzled with chocolate syrup. They eat that like it's a dessert.
I was at a gas station once, and they had Tabasco flavored Hershey bars, or it was a candy bar that was similar to Hershey. I think, and it may not have been exactly Hershey, but it was like, I got to try that. I like Tabasco sauce, and it was actually pretty good. I don't know why it didn't sell well, but we got weird shit here too. We combine things for no reason, and apparently we lost Elihu again.
Elihu's microphone was really hot. He just kind of came in so much louder than the rest of you. But yeah, if you like drinking Mountain Dew with your hot dogs, you got this one-stop shop now.
Well, yeah, to me, drinking a Mountain Dew with a hot dog is fine, but Mountain Dew flavored hot dogs, that's just I don't know.
It's kind of like smoking menthol cigarettes. I like smoking when I smoke, but I also like brushing my teeth, but I like to keep them separate. When you combine the two with a menthol cigarette, it's not great.
Yeah, I can't. Oh, there it goes. I was trying to bring you up, Elihu, but it said none of your devices were connected. You there?
He's muted.
Maybe not. Yeah, Darren, when I first started smoking, I was menthol, and then I kind of discovered full flavor cigarettes, and after that, I never went back to menthol, and I can barely stand them. And
well, it's funny. It's always the newer thing is always for pussies, right? So there was a time when filtered cigarettes came out, and all the guys who smoked non-filtered cigarettes, where they rolled them and stuff, would look at the guys smoking a filtered cigarette, go, "Hey, you're a pussy." They used to do that, and then light cigarettes came out, same thing, and then yeah, it's always the next new thing. It's kind of like how beer drinkers used to look at light beer when it first came out. Light beer had to wait a full generation of people before it really caught on big, and now I think most people drink light beer. They don't drink the full the full beer stuff.
Yeah, I like light beer.
I don't know. Beer is one of those ones where I don't understand the appeal unless you're drinking it for flavor.
Right.
Because I'm not going to say who, but recently someone was telling me about how they were drunk off beer, and I'm like, how do you get drunk off beer?
Yeah, you have to drink a lot of it.
I mean,
like a lot of it.
I could drink one beer every 10 minutes for 8 hours straight and barely get a buzz.
The way alcohol metabolizes in my system, I can get drunk really fast.
I think what Yvette meant to say was menthol fags are banned here, but she probably auto-corrected to fans.
Yeah, they are.
Over in England, fag still means
cigarettes.
A cigarette butt.
Yeah, menthol cigarettes are also banned here.
I was going to make a joke. I'm like, menthol fans are banned here? Well, I wish menthol fans were banned in California, too.
They banned nationwide or just in California?
California banned all flavored cigarettes and tobacco products except for chews.
Huh. But they'll allow tobacco-flavored ones, right?
Yeah, you're allowed tobacco-flavored ones.
Yeah.
But you can still buy menthol if, like, the Camel Crushes are still allowed for some reason, and I don't know why.
Because they're non-menthol, you can make them into a menthol.
Yeah, but the whole thing is to prevent kids from being hooked on the flavors. And I'm like, fuck that. I still want my vanilla flavored cigars.
Right.
So I got one cigar shop that's willing to break the law just to provide me with my vanilla flavors right now.
Reminds me of that act in Dennis Leary's stand-up where his favorite gas station where he normally buys his morning coffee was under construction. So he went to a Starbucks reluctantly. And he walks in, and there's a guy with, he's talking about how this guy with multicolored hair and too many piercings on his face, is at the corner and asks, what he wants. And he says, a cup of coffee. And the guy asks, what flavor? And Leary just looks at him and goes, coffee-flavored coffee. That generational thing again,
Well, it's funny. The coffee that I had here at Mrs. Vile's place for a while was a bourbon infused coffee, and even though it had no alcohol in it because it was just the freaking grounds, of course, you could taste the Jim Beam bourbon flavor, and it was freaking awesome.
Nice.
All that.
So it's like all the flavor of the alcohol without the actual alcohol. In case you're worried about that, it was great.
Synthahol coffee. So you had Synthahol coffee. Nice.
Getting back to, I like Quentin Tarantino films, and of course he's got the Red Apple cigarette brand in most of his contemporaries, and I love the fact that he creates his own fictional brand of cigarettes, and people have made like fake boxes with the apple with the worm in it that's smoking a cigarette and stuff like that, smiling at you, smoking a cigarette. And the idea that you can't have what would be perceived today as a cartoon character to advertise cigarettes ever since Joe Camel, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think Joe Camel was ever designed to attract kids to smoking in the same way. I don't think the Michelin Man was ever intended to attract kids to buying tires. You know, but they won that battle, and Camel had to put the standard Arabian dromedary on their
well, that's what they had beforehand
package.
too. So
right. So yeah, I mean, this went back to a classic thing. But no, the at the end of you can find this scene on YouTube. At the end of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Leonardo DiCaprio as Rick Dalton is doing an ad read that was filmed during his show Bounty Law in the early '60s, and he's telling you all about, how great the red apple cigarettes is, and then when the guy yells cut, he just throws the cigarette on the ground and, all right, this cigarette tastes like shit. He starts pissing and moaning like a little baby about everything around him, and it's just funny stuff.
That's Hollywood.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned the red apple cigarettes, because on the CNA pyramid that I have on each of my episode titles, red apple cigarettes is one of the items on it.
Yeah. Well, I also love the just the juxtaposition of, we think of red apples as being, a healthy fruit, natural, and then you put cigarettes behind it. It's just like, it's a great dichotomy.
Never been a fan of red apples.
Well, Golden Delicious are good too, but I mean,
apples period. Never really liked them.
Apples period, yeah.
Yeah, not an apple person.
Yeah.
Don't like them.
Yeah, I had an apple tree in my backyard as a kid.
See if I can figure it out. There we go.
I eat a lot of apples.
It's not a to-go fruit for me.
Oh yeah, so you got the box right there, the standard box. Oh, and you got this. You got the Constellation class too, my favorite ship. But what I like about the red apples is the basic one. And here, let me show. I've got something a little bit better that shows you everything about it. Here, let me grab it. Here we go. Okay, presenta por favor. There we go. This is something somebody made on the internet where you can print it and make your own red apple box. And this is the basic one. And then what they do is they put a different hat on the worm and change the coloring a little bit of the box to reflect, So, for example, the one that Rick Dalton in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood had, the worm had a little cowboy hat on, or you'd have like in one of the ones he was at, an advertisement for like the 13 Fists of McCluskey or something, which I think was his World War II one. You had the worm had a helmet on or something. It was they would do that to customize it. But I kind of like it just because of the simplicity of it and the fact that they got a big red apple on the front. It's vaguely reminiscent of Lucky Strike. They had a great big red dot on their on theirs too. But I just think it's clever and fun stuff.
That barcode is for do detox 30 capsules.
I don't know anything about the barcode. I mean,
I just scanned the barcode and it's for a detox weight loss pill.
Okay, well, interesting. All right.
I'm like, what the hell is? I thought it was 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm like, no wait, that's actual barcode. So I scanned it. I'm like, I'm curious.
Well, what's funny is because the magazines I pack out have expiration dates on there, and they change each week, and each one has its own unique barcode. I found, like, occasionally I'll find old magazines that I don't know how the store maintained or how it lost, and they put it back in the magazine rack, whatever. And I'll scan it, and it'll be a completely different product on there. Like, I scanned an old issue of I'm gonna pull a name out of my ass. I think National Enquirer, because I don't think it was actually a National Enquirer. But it came up for like Boston baked beans, like jalapenos with jalapenos, and I'm like, wow.
It's funny. I've been doing a little bit of personal research on. Because I'm working on this writing project where I had to create some fictional products for billboards, and so Red Apple cigarettes, of course, obviously was an inspiration to make a brand of cigarettes. But then I also wanted to think of a restaurant, and I did a little research, and it's funny, Mexicans, and the Southwest, they're not the only ones who make tacos. The North American Indians, like the Potawatomis and the Menominees up here in the Kickapoo tribes, they have on their reservations, they have elementary schools, and those elementary schools will have their own tacos. but they use them. They make them with the ingredients that they like. So wild rice, bison, yams, things like that, and you get taco, and they're made with fry bread, kind of like a chalupa shell, and very interesting looking. And I thought it would be interesting to have like a North American Indian taco stand, like Kickapoo Taco or something. It's and we up here in Wisconsin in the Kickapoo Valley we have a line of coffee shops. I think there's about 8 of them now, called Kickapoo Coffee, and they look very much like Starbucks, but they've got Kickapoo on there. They don't put like an Indian iconography on it or anything. They keep it, they don't put a teepee in their logo or anything like that. They keep it pretty civil that way. But they like the name. They say it's named after the river, not the tribe that the river is named after. But and it just it's one of those things where you put a taco in there and you put bison or duck and then like wild rice and just cranberries and things like that are around here. It sounds awful, but then so does the Big Kahuna Burger over in Quentin Tarantino's movies, the Hawaiian burger joint.
Well, I'll be honest, I do like the Carl's Jr. had the teriyaki burger for a while, and
right.
it was basically their famous star burger with teriyaki sauce and a slice of grilled pineapple, and it was freaking delicious.
Oh yeah, grilled pineapple. On my George Foreman, sometimes I will do this. When I want a burger, I will get at the grocery store, a tube or a ring of pineapple or whatever, and grill that alongside the burgers. And what happens when you grill it is it loses a lot of its sweetness and just the tang is left over, and it's like a great big sweet pickle on your burger. It covers the whole patty. It's pretty nice.
And then
Ray Kroc. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
One of the other burgers I love is just to throw in a fried egg with avocado on a burger. It's actually really freaking good. I don't know. It does not deserve to be as good as it is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also like a heart attack waiting to kill you.
Yeah. So, for example, this would be an example of a taco that they would serve at a Native American elementary school. Fry bread, soft shell. This is obviously unwrapped, so you can see what's in it. Wild rice, fried, yams, and then probably some. Yeah, you can't really have a taco without cheese. And then I'm not sure what they would put on there for the sauce, but that's what they would eat, and it's no meat in it, or they might have little chunks of bison or duck or something in there. But I thought that was fascinating, because that's a taco made for their palate and what they traditionally like to eat. So
I don't know if Mrs. Vile's listening, but just last night I tried a new variety of taco I've never had before. It's a Mexican kind that because it was her friend's birthday, or 2 of her friends were having their birthdays. It's a married couple; their birthdays on the same day, and the tacos were, not something I've had before, but they were actually pretty good. I like them.
Yeah.
If you're listening, she can put in the chat what they were exactly, because I can't remember. They gave me like 6 different names of things they're called.
Because obviously, when you get into like the Plains Indians and stuff like that, if they were to make tacos, they'd be very similar to stuff they find further to the south. But I just thought, up here in north, or the north of the United States anyway, that's fascinating to me. But anyway, yeah. So Transformers, right? You still on that?
No, I was done. I just wanted to say why I hated it, or not. I didn't really hate it. It was more of just disappointed.
Did any of you see yet the Strange New Worlds episode that came out last night?
I'm going to watch it after this stream is over.
I'll probably watch
those old scientists. I'm going to watch it.
Yeah, I'm not going to spoil anything, but I thought that was the most entertaining episode so far in this series. But given it is a gimmicky episode.
I might have to wait to watch it with Caddy, just because she and I enjoyed Lower Decks so much together that we're going to have to watch it together. So I might have to wait until
saying a word.
later in the week.
Okay, Darren. Okay, no spoiler episode, but Frakes directed the episode. What did you think about Boiler doing the Riker maneuver?
Who doing the what?
The Riker maneuver.
Who did the Riker maneuver?
Boimler. I read that Boimler did the Riker maneuver, although Frakes directed the episode.
So he threw his leg around or turned a chair around backwards to sit on it.
Yeah,
I didn't even notice that.
Maneuver you were talking about? You're talking about the one where he does that, or the one where what he did in his
legs over the leg over the chair, the Riker maneuver, because his back issue. Yeah.
Basically, he turns the chair around and sits with the seat, the back of the chair up against his chest. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that. I was paying more attention to other things probably. I want to watch it again because there's all kinds of stuff. When I watch it the second time, I'll pick up on that kind of stuff. But as a guy who's only seen one episode of Lower Decks, I was actually quite pleased that the characters from Lower Decks did not change at all going into the live action format. And when I watch it the second time, I am going to have to use subtitles because they talk so much faster than the Strange New Worlds characters that I know I missed something. I know that. Okay, I don't want to. They mentioned triticale, and I thought I liked that because
the grain.
Because it's quadrotriticale in Kirk's time, but in Pike's time it's only triticale. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But so.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it when the stream's over. So.
Well, as I said, I want to watch it with Caddy because the whole gag when that show first came out. Anyone who knows anything about Caddy was like, Mariner is Caddy.
Yeah, nobody faults you for wanting to see it with your daughter, but it is. I thought that the reactions, especially of the SNW crew to the person or persons that come from Lower Decks, were spot on. And it's a treat. I mean, it's just a fun time. So yeah.
So it was like a good crossover where they, both sides are equally represented. One doesn't overshadow the other, and there's character development all around.
There is, because it is an episode of SNW. It does involve things that happened earlier in the season in terms of how people, are doing their business and stuff like that. Pike doesn't appear to be a fleet captain anymore after what happened in the last episode where he ended up destroying the thing that he was sent to repair.
Yeah.
So, or it might have just been a temporary thing as well. But, so he's back to being regular captain. So, that's interesting. And then, we see more of the Enterprise's version of 10 Forward. That seems to be a set they want to show us more of today. Or in this season, and it's the moment. Okay, it's in the trailer. I don't know if you've seen the sneak peek scene from the show at all.
Yeah, I showed Patty about it.
Where Boimler wakes up in the Enterprise sick bay and says computer and program, and nobody knows what he's talking about. It's just And they confiscate his badge because they can tell there's technology in it. And they're like, oh, it's also a communicator. And and Pike's like, well, I like ours better.
What do you guys think about this? Since Mike shares, what do you guys think about this?
Well, I'm not gonna be. I see. This is what you do when you don't have enough material for a whole season. A musical episode where everybody sings. I mean, I think Simpsons did something like this once, and it's weird. It's a risk. If none of them can sing or one of them can't, that's a problem.
Well, they can all sing.
I'm willing to bet they can all sing. Yeah. But it's. I don't know that I would have done an episode like that this early in the show's development, maybe in the third season, But I mean, how many seasons went by before Supernatural did their Scooby-Doo episode where they were all, it was a Scooby-Doo
cartoon
episode. Yes,
cartoon. Scooby
You know.
Natural, and Buffy did theirs as well.
Yeah, and I guess other shows have done musicals too.
Yeah.
But we
What I'm worried
didn't
about-
have episodes like this in the Berman era, and so it's just like, why?
Well, hold on. One, I will point to Q making the TNG cast do
Robin Hood.
Robin Hood. Thank you.
But that wasn't a musical.
I know it's not a musical, but it was them. That could have easily been a musical episode of TNG.
Right, but it wasn't.
That's how it
and
should
this
have been
is.
done.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is,
I don't agree with that at all.
Q is fucking with the crew.
Right.
It would
Okay.
work.
If it's a reality-altering thing, we don't know why there's going to be singing in this episode. If it's just a decision that's made. Oh, by the way, this episode is going to be told as an opera. If there's a mechanism where they're forced to sing or something like that.
There is, Darren. The trailer shows
Like,
kind of energy wave flowing over everybody in the
Harry.
show.
Okay.
Did you ever watch Scrubs? Because they had a musical episode where the excuse of why everyone was singing was they weren't actually doing it. It was some lady who had a medical condition, or like a tumor, pushing on part of her brain that made her imagine everyone singing their conversations.
Right. But that's again, that's just an excuse to have them all singing. So it's like an unreliable narrator story. But it's
I would say a large portion of musical episodes that I've seen are really well done. I mean, Buffy's is probably one of the best ever made.
Once more with feeling.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I'm obviously going to watch it, but it just I'm going to reserve my opinion after I've seen it. But I mean, if it works, it works. And I hope it does work. I hope I'm impressed. You know what I mean? But generally speaking, this is not something that Star Trek fans are used to see happening in one of their shows. When we see the actors singing, it's in a blooper reel, or it's I know that Discovery did this short something or whatever where the cast sang a song, and it was very they called the audience nerds, and it was very condescending. So we'll see if they've learned anything from that experience. But yeah.
People wanted to have the Orville as a musical. Well, it looks like Star Trek beat stuff to it, so that's got to steal something from Star Trek again.
I honestly think that the Orville could have pulled it off easier than Star Trek.
That's why people were saying it. Yeah, people wanted an Orville musical episode. It's like maybe season 4. Maybe season 4 if we get to season 4. Well, Star Trek did it, so technically Seth has to rip off Star Trek again.
Exactly, yeah. So, anyway.
Well, the musical episode is something that has been in... I mean, it's a trope at this point. I mean, hold on.
More recent trope, I mean, yeah.
At least it's not a flashback episode where it's a filler. We got 5 minutes of new scenes and everything else is just repeats of everything you've seen before.
You mean a clip show?
Yeah, thank you, clip show. Yeah, I hated those things.
Clip shows were what we had back when we had broadcast television and no reruns yet. So, for example, Family Ties would have, and the whole reason for a clip show was to give the casting crew the week off for a holiday, like Christmas or something. That's why it was there. You always saw the clip show would be on the New Year's week or something, or a month or two after that, because this was the time where they needed to give the cast the time off.
The episode where Allison Hannigan did not sing.
Well,
I don't know what it is, Elihu. You are really loud.
Nope, her audio is not on the soundtrack.
You are so much louder than everybody else, Elihu. It's really something.
Then Mike needs to turn down my mic.
I'm having to adjust volume every time you say something to keep from blowing out my headset.
I'll see what I can do. Hold on.
If you do that, I'll say, "Hola, Mrs. Cardenas."
And I'm not blaming you for projecting. That's actually quite good.
No,
but,
I can't. I can't change your mic volume, Elihu. You're gonna have to do it yourself.
Okay.
Oh wait, no, never mind. I can't. I had to just change your.
I was gonna say, Deej knows how to turn down.
If Deej can mute LDG all the way down without hitting the mute button, you can lower my volume bar.
No,
Yep,
it wasn't LDG.
I figured out how to do it.
It wasn't LDG. It was Sci-Fi Nation.
Oh.
He just kept turning his volume down until it was like 10% of normal, and then he left.
You highlighted the wrong comment. There you go. Good boy.
Well, let's see. See, all these episodes have had a musical episode. Ally McBeal, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Chicago Hope, Code Black, Cold Case, Community, Even Stevens. The Flash with a crossover with Supergirl had a musical episode.
Wow.
Yeah, that was Melissa Bonet is a great voice.
Grey's Anatomy had one too. Huh? Wow.
How I Met Your Money, How I Met Your Money, How I Met Your Mother, Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
These are all more
Tommy
recent
Ryder.
shows. Yeah.
Lucifer, yeah.
Malcolm in the Middle, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Well, yeah, that was almost always a musical.
Wait, Northern Exposure had a musical? I don't remember that.
That's probably the oldest. Oh, that might be the oldest show on this list. And yeah, interesting.
Oh yeah, when I was talking earlier, Power Rangers Beast Morphers. Yeah, they had a slightly musical episode. Psych the musical. I forgot about that one. That one was great too.
There's Scrubs.
Scrubs, Sanctuary, Schitt's Creek. Of course, Sesame Street.
Of course.
Seventh Heaven.
Supernatural.
No, it says Supernatural is a show about a musical, but not necessarily one. That 70s show.
Oh, Xena Warrior Princess.
Xena Warrior Princess. Too. Yeah, I forgot about that one.
Oh,
yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Legends of Tomorrow. Teachers.
Well, I guess it is a standard of television now, but it's kind of like the tropes we used to have in television were the amnesia episodes or the truth serum episode where somebody accidentally his vitamins are replaced with truth serum and then somebody else tries the vitamins and hilarity ensues because everybody is not holding back anymore. Things like that. Fundamental misunderstanding of how truth serum works. But there was that. It's just like every once in a while the cast of a show would have for some reason a Western episode. Star Trek had three that I'm aware of.
The Datas, Fistful of Datas.
Well, it was Spectre of the Gun on the original series, then it was Fistful of Datas, and then the last one was North Star on Enterprise. But what was interesting about each one of those episodes, even though they were in the Old West, they weren't actually in the Old West. They didn't time travel.
Yeah.
They were in facsimiles of the Old West, either a holodeck or a mind game or a colony that was settled by people from the West. So it was interesting how they did that. What's another one? The evil twin episode, where where an actor would get to play two characters, the normal character he plays, and then somebody who happens to look just like him.
Dun dun dun.
They even did that on the Hulk twice, where they had Bill Bixby playing two parts, and then they had Lou Ferrigno playing two parts in another episode.
Yeah, Flash, Savitar. Two berries.
My favorite Star Trek ones were usually Disease of the Week kind of episodes. What's it going to cause now? What kind of challenge is it going to be now, or something? Or the Freaky Friday type episodes where two characters get to switch parts essentially.
Yeah, Stargate even did that.
And they're fun. People like to see that stuff. But, musicals haven't been a mainstay in American cinema for a long time. So,
I would disagree. I would say that musicals are still prevalent.
Yeah,
they're not a mainstay. When was the last Hollywood film that was a musical that was released?
It's not musicals, it's musical television shows, people individually singing.
Well, I would
Right,
say
I
that,
understand, but that's not what I was talking about, though, Elihu. I said
I was trying to correct Mike.
I would say a good chunk of Disney films are still still qualify as musicals, and they're still. I mean,
Barbie's a musical.
Barbie's
I don't know. I haven't
musical.
seen
Okay,
Barbie.
okay, but I can remember when you didn't have when Moulin Rouge first came out. It was like the first musical in Hollywood in 10 years. I'm talking about live action cartoons. Cartoons are in their own thing. I'm talking about a live action musical.
Yeah, I consider Barbie a musical because there's a couple singings.
Right. Okay. So when was the last live action musical out before Barbie?
Cats.
Yeah, and it did really well, didn't it? How about before Cats then?
Into
Into
the Woods. Into the Woods.
Hollywood
Disney.
Hold on.
Hollywood. What I'm saying is Hollywood used to crank out like 4 or 5 at least musicals a year, and they're not doing that. It's not a mainstay anymore. That's what I'm saying.
I just typed in live action musical, or I typed in current musicals or recent musicals. We have Encanto, we have Tick Tick Boom, we have Metal Lords, Monster High the movie, West Side Story,
can you read something that's not Disney, please?
Purple Heart, Matilda the Musical, Vivo,
and nobody's heard of those.
Yeah, can you read something that's not Disney?
Elvis.
And nobody's heard of these. These haven't been movies that people have gone to see in droves. I mean, it's not a popular genre anymore.
Elvis was a Netflix movie.
So it's still a movie. La La Land.
Oh, I forgot about La La Land.
A Star is Born. Mamma Mia.
The point is, and I still think
Bohemian
the point is
Rhapsody,
valid.
Rocket Man. Trolls.
The point is valid that musicals aren't the kind of genre they used to be. You look at a movie like
hold on.
You look at a movie.
West Side Story, Darren.
Straight out of Compton is considered a musical.
Well, all right, but again, Hollywood used to produce a lot of musicals every year, and they're trickling out now. We're talking about the era of My Fair Lady, and stuff like that, and Disney live action films, obviously, like Mary Poppins. And they might be making a comeback, but I remember when Moulin Rouge came out, people were excited because this was the first big budget, with known actors, in a musical in a long time, and maybe they are coming back. I mean, I guess they probably are, but
what I would
for
say
a while there they weren't.
I would say it's like horror movies. Horror movies are always coming out, but there's these cycles of horror movies where the genre gets re-upped for a few years, then it cools off for a few years. But in the meantime, there's still low-budget ones coming out the entire time.
Right. Well, the low budget, it's fine. I'm talking about big-budget Hollywood productions like My Fair Lady and things like that. Judy Garland movies, right?
As I said, it seems to be cyclical.
Well, the cycle hasn't really been. I mean, again, we haven't had musicals like that. The ones I just listed that were big productions everybody went to for a very long time. Maybe they are on the upswing now, but again, they haven't always been a Hollywood mainstay. But at one point they were. Just like westerns have not been a Hollywood mainstay since about the early 70s. That's when everything kind of weaned off of it. That's
even westerns got a resurgence a few years ago when they re-released. They did remakes of 310 to Yuma, True Grit. Like that.
Yeah, they have been. But again, it used to be westerns were everywhere. I mean, there were Western TV shows everywhere, and there were, you had, 6 or 7 different westerns coming out every year from Hollywood, and we don't have that anymore. That's why when Unforgiven came out, it was a western, with Clint Eastwood. Wow, and again, right. There was a brief resurgence.
I'm gonna go. I got a Jaloja. I'll be right back.
Okay.
What are we talking about, Darren?
So do I. So you guys get to talk.
Well, that's cool. What are we talking about?
So, here I'm gonna ask you something that I know you got an opinion about. I live in Wisconsin, and of course, in Wisconsin right now, one of the big stories is this. I'm not going to call him any names. I'll call him an Army private from Racine, Wisconsin, named Travis King, who was stationed in South Korea and got into a lot of trouble there and was being sent back to the United States to Texas for military discipline, right? And he decided not to get on his flight and instead ended up, whether unintentionally or intentionally, nobody can tell, defecting to North Korea, running across the demilitarized zone into North Korea. Knife hand running like Tom Cruise, and now nobody knows what his status is. Is North Korea going to try to use him as a bargaining chip to get something? Like a North Korean terrorist, who's overseas released or something like that. It's a big story here, and amongst veteran circles, obviously, it's a fairly big story this week. So
I'm surprised I haven't heard of it. This is actually new to me. I actually have not heard about this.
Well, it was breaking. It broke, I think, last Tuesday, so you might have missed it. But it's if you look up Travis King on the internet, 2 words, you'll see all kinds of information about him. From all accounts, he's a thoroughly disreputable character. He would basically go into South Korean dance clubs and pretend he was John Wick, and because he's probably
I know the type of person you're talking about.
Got arrested, got thrown in a Kia squad car and did $1,000 worth of damage inside. Now I don't know how you do $1,000 worth of damage inside a Kia, but he figured out how, and then to top it all off, the Army didn't transport him back to the United States in any sort of military air transport. They bought him a civilian ticket, and in a South Korean airport, you can't go beyond a certain point if you don't have a ticket. So his 2 guys that were assigned to escort him to the airport, make sure he gets on the plane, couldn't make sure he got on the plane, because they weren't allowed any further. And so he sees this, all of a sudden he's like, well, do I really want to go to Texas? The guy could have taken the flight to Texas and probably eluded people once he got there, maybe, but he decided to leave the airport and go on a sightseeing tour bus that was touring the demilitarized zone. He got off the bus, ran across to North Korea. Now, I don't know. It doesn't seem to me that if he knew anything about North Korea, he would want to go there. If you think South Korea is tough.
I don't know, Darren. Texas, North Korea, they're basically the same.
Well, here's the other thing, though. Maybe he thought they would treat him like they treated Dennis Rodman when he showed up in North Korea. And
not going to happen.
Got the celebrity treatment. Maybe he could convince them he was an NBA player and they would be nice to him or something. I don't know. Maybe he thought he could hide in North Korea. He's not.
It's actually. It's actually, Darren, that since you brought that up, I actually do remember seeing something about that in passing on TikTok. I just didn't know the guy was from Wisconsin. I remember hearing about that.
I've heard some stuff about it. Mostly what I've heard is from military guys saying that, the U.S. he's in the military, so that no matter what they're going to do, they're going to try to get him back because the no man left behind, even if the guy went crazy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that is true. Although we still have a Marine in Russia, I will point that out.
Yeah,
that we traded a WNBA player instead. I'm just going to point that out.
Yeah, it's
the only big news around here is Frank Sinatra.
No, it was Tony Bennett.
Wow, somebody pays attention. I'm just fucking with you,
Darren. Here's where I'm running into. So my opinion on this is leadership drops some serious fucking balls here.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because if this guy was as unhinged as, and I'll look it up, because I like to research stuff, especially things like this. But if this guy was this bad, he was probably confined to the base. Which is our version of arrested, because arrested is not going to actual jail. Going to jail is actually confinement. Arrest means, like restriction to the base. It has various meanings. So this guy was probably under arrest. Why they would send him on? First off, I'm confused on why Well, first off, civilian transfer versus a C-130, very strange.
Right.
Other factor, he is going to the United States to face charges. So why wasn't he okay, if the military guards weren't there, why wasn't a rock counterpart on the other side to make sure he gets on the plane?
Yeah, exactly. Why didn't they play for 2 tickets and have an escort there to make sure he got on the plane with, they could have paid
Yeah,
for
that's
2
another
tickets.
thing. Why wasn't
It's
there?
not like the military budget couldn't afford 2 plane tickets.
Probably you're right, but I mean, it's hard for me to imagine that, because the last time I was in, the military was fairly fat, dumb, and happy with money. But it was they clearly underestimated this young man. I won't say what they underestimated, but again, I'm trying to be nice, but it's hard to. Blondell said they can keep him. I mean, that was when he found out about it. He's like,
"Oh, I said the same thing. I said the same thing about
if he was
the guy who defected in Afghanistan. I know the policy of no man left behind. I respect it.
Yeah.
I generally agree with it. It's really hard to want to feel like we want to bring a traitor back. And yes,
yeah, well, they've done it before. We've done that before with what's his face.
Yeah, we've done it with traitors, and that's what bothers me.
What I'm saying, all I'm saying is, if he's genuinely defecting, I would kind of agree with you. I'd say let him keep him. But if it was just some guy whose sanity kind of snapped, and he was making some bad, really, really bad decisions, that's not the same thing.
Okay,
most guys that go to South Korea don't go to clubs just to beat the hell out of South Koreans. I mean, that's what he was doing,
So here's the thing. That's actually interesting you guys bring that up because I was just watching TikTok, and there was this petty officer first class, and she was talking about this recently passed Brady Act in the military. And I watched the whole thing, and I reacted to it because she was dead fucking on. It's like, great. And my wife did 2 videos on it because my wife worked in medical most of her career. And she was dead fucking on. It's like, great. You make another policy. We're going to do more training. We're going to get more briefings that are going to amount to nothing because our leadership is shit.
Yeah. The thing is, there's another option that might happen to him. He might end up like Otto Warmbier. Remember him? He's a college student who was over on North Korea as part of some academic thing.
Oh, that thing.
He stole a poster. Basically, he took a poster off a wall because he wanted to keep it as a souvenir. They charged him with subversion and kept him for 1.5 years. And when they released him, he was a vegetable who died like a week later.
Yes, I do remember that.
What they do to their prisoners. It's pretty bad. So I mean, they might do that to him. Who knows? But There's one thing that I say, if they wanted to do a trade for King with some other guy, an exchange, I would take it if they also threw in the USS Pueblo, because it is a disgrace that the USS Pueblo has been in possession of North Korea since 1967. That is a disgrace to me. So if they threw in the USS Pueblo and Travis King, I'd say go for it.
You see, here's where, and this is where a lot of veterans, you're just going to run into this with us. Yes, we believe in the no man left behind. The problem is when you're a traitor, you weren't left behind, you left us.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, that's truth. Yeah. And you would say no man left behind does not apply for somebody who
abandoned us,
I guess. Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna explain. Okay. Remember, Darren, there's the difference between AWOL and UA.
Right. Unauthorized absence versus absence without leave.
Yeah.
But yeah. You have to be gone though for, I think, at least when I was in, you had to be gone for 30 days, over a month before it was considered AWOL. Well, it will be 30 days here soon. He's not coming back in 30 days.
No, I think the way it works is if it's like stateside or something like that, or in friendly areas, I believe it is you are AWOL until 30 day, or sorry, you are UA until the 30-day mark, then you're AWOL.
Gotcha.
And then
I mean, that sounds right. That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's your UA until the 30-day mark, and then you're AWOL, or it's the opposite.
But he's a deserter. I mean, that's
yeah, he's a deserter. There's a difference. That's a clear difference.
Yeah.
A deserter is a completely different setting.
Yeah.
He's not absent without leave. He's not UA. He's a deserter.
Right, because he made it. He has a very obvious pattern of behavior at this point. So yeah, but yeah, if they threw in the Pueblo, I'd be all for it, because we need, again, there's a reason why the Pueblo is the second longest active duty ship. They have never taken the Pueblo off of the active duty list, even though it's been in possession of North Korea since I think it was 1967, but I'm gonna check.
I'm surprised. All my time in the military, I never heard about this. I'm gonna have to look that up now.
1968. Yeah, it's a very small vessel. It was a Banner class environmental research ship, but it was in open waters. But according to North Korea, it was in their waters, so they confiscated it. And so the two oldest ships in service in the United States Navy are the Constitution, which is basically the flagship. It's where all the ceremonies are held and things like that, and then the Pueblo. And
that's funny, Mike.
North Koreans have turned Pueblo, of course, into a tourist attraction, and how they've captured a U.S. Navy asset, and all that kind of stuff. Oh, look how great we are, and that kind of a deal. So yeah,
it's all propaganda BS. But no, I hadn't heard about that. I'm gonna have to actually look that up. I knew about the Travis King thing, but only in passing. I hadn't really kept up with it, because it's like I said. You said I have an opinion on it. Yeah, I've already given it.
Yeah. So
it's as simple as that. We don't leave our people behind; they left us.
Right. And don't think that his skin color is not going to play a factor in this as well, especially with the Biden administration. But
I don't even know what his skin color is. I didn't even look any. I have no idea what this guy looks like.
He's of African descent. Yeah, he's black. He's of African descent. Handsome guy too, if he wasn't so crazy. So I mean, he's got that whole Billy D thing going on.
Well, here's a thing though. If it was this okay? So here's where I'm kind of wondering here, because I've seen this happen in the military where, like when I was at MacDill Air Force Base, we had a couple of problem makers that came into our unit that had problems in their previous unit. And it was like literally they got rid of them and basically passed them on to us.
Yeah.
Well, that'll happen. We had to deal with a fallout, which was both of them got kicked out. But both of them got kicked out based on my recommendation.
No.
Yeah.
En la casa.
So were there problems? And this is why I'm saying, were there problems in his previous unit before he went to South Korea? And were they documented and he was still sent? Or did the problems start in South Korea? Are the problems family related, personal related, military related, a combination? There's all kind of factors we could play. If this is because I'm saying, if this is like he had a mental breakdown versus he just consciously deserted, those are different factors.
Yeah, it's hard to tell at this point.
And I mean, positive candor.
Listen, who in the right mind wants to infect North Korea, especially if you don't look like you're a Korean?
I got the door.
He thought maybe he could tell him he had some secrets. Maybe he'll make some shit up to him, and they'll treat him like a king. And then
Ceros en la casa.
He can't know much. He was an E1.
Por favor.
Yeah. For how long, Darren? Tell how long he was an E1 for.
3 years, although he did get promoted to E2 and then got demoted back to E1. So I mean,
3 years. Come on.
3 years. You're doing something.
Sorry,
wrong.
I had to
wait a minute.
Because they were going through some of the stuff I picked up for the store. Sarah started playing with one of the Pikachus that I'm trying to sell, and I don't need her breaking the tail.
All right.
Do you understand that you are actually the way this is going, you're telling me this guy's been demoted from PV2 to PV1 twice now? And
something like that.
So here's my question. Was this guy's first duty assignment, or was he at a previous station and then he was stationed over there? Like I said, you got to understand, there are so many factors that play into this. I can't just jump a gun.
Okay. Wow, Travis T. King already has a Wikipedia article, and it's fairly large.
Well,
Okay.
of course, it's just happened, so it's going to be...
Okay.
Anyone who has an opinion is going to add something to it.
It says, okay, this is what it says in Wikipedia, which again is not a 100% faithful source so far, but we'll see. King enlisted in the United States Army in January 2021. Okay, so that was only 2 years ago. He became a cavalry scout and was assigned to 1st Brigade Combat Team, 1st Armored Division, which arrived in South Korea in February of 2022.
Okay, so that is his, okay. So that based on right there is he went basic training. He went to his whatever school he had to go to. He got assigned to his unit, and his unit is now stationed over there, if I'm understanding that correctly.
All right, so here's the list of his infractions here. On September 2022, King failed to report for his daily formation in Camp Boniface. I'm going to mispronounce some of these words. He was later found in, Ojeobangbu, and stated that he refused to return to Post or America. On September 25th, this is, 19 days later, King assaulted a South Korean local at a nightclub in Seoul, but the victim did not press charges, and the Seoul local court dropped the case. On October of that same year, which is, let's say October 8th, which is like a week later, at 3:46 Korean Standard Time, King was involved in an altercation with South Korean locals in Mapo, Seoul. And when police officers tried to question him, he continued with his aggressive behavior. Without answering questions from officers, he was placed in the backseat of a car where he shouted expletives and insults against Koreans. They don't like that shit there, even in South Korea. That was my adding a little bit of something there. The Korean Army and the Korean police and kicked the vehicle's door several times, causing, it says here, $458 in damages. He later pleaded guilty to assault and destruction of public goods and paid the equivalent of $800 to fix the vehicle. Due to this incident, King stayed behind in South Korea when his unit returned to the United States. King was then administratively attached. Yeah. King
wait a minute. His unit left.
Yes,
and he
left
stayed?
him behind. Yeah, he stayed. King was administratively attached to the 2nd Brigade Combat Team, 4th Division. Okay, so then following the charges of assault, King was fined $4,000 on the equivalent of $4,000 on February of this year by the Seoul Western District Court, which he failed to pay. He was then held for 47 days at the South Korean detention facility in Cheongan before being released on July 10th of this year, so not too long ago, 13 days ago. After his release, King spent a week at a United States military base, Camp Humphreys I'm not going to try pronouncing that, under observation. He completed out processing from the facility on July 17th and was escorted to Incheon International Airport the next day. As far as the customs checkpoint, the military escort had no ticket and was not allowed past the checkpoint. King continued into the terminal alone as a result. King was to board a flight to Fort Bliss, great name, in Texas, for pending administrative separation actions for foreign conviction in the United States, but instead fled the airport, approaching a American Airlines employee and claiming he was missing his passport. After leaving the airport, King joined a group of tourists on a civilian tour of the Korean demilitarized zone in Panmunjom, and on the 18th of July at 3:27 Korean time, crossed the military demarcation line in the joint security area into North Korea while the tour was ongoing. Witnesses claimed that King, dressed in black, suddenly ran to the North Korean side of the military demarcation line during the tour, making a loud laughing noise while running. Soldiers from the southern side unsuccessfully chased after King. It is believed that King was taken by into North Korean custody after being picked up by an unidentified van. On July 20th, the United States Department of Defense declared King to be absent without leave, AWOL. As of the 23rd of July, King is in North Korea under custody of the North Korean government. And that's as far as we apparently know. So ain't that some shit?
Well, I'm assuming
That is
Wikipedia
so
has
much
all these
failure
things,
in leadership.
their sources cited, right?
What's that?
Does the Wikipedia article have their sources cited? That's what I'm concerned
Oh
about.
yeah. There's been parenthetical documentation, and all the references are listed at the bottom. It's not a bad sized page. I mean, they got information about him there, but
I don't understand. Here's the thing: why would this guy? Okay, so he was coming back. Honestly, the worst case scenario I can see for coming back and going to Fort Bliss to face charges, the worst case scenario he was looking at was a bad conduct discharge and maybe a small confinement at best, but most likely just a bad conduct discharge.
Yeah, and then either sent back or just let out of the gate and he can find his way back to Racine. Yeah, but who knows? We don't know what his family life was like. Maybe who knows? Maybe he couldn't return home.
You're right. Yeah, positive candor. You're right. I think the worst he would have got was the big chicken dinner. So why?
I don't understand that reference.
BCD is bad conduct discharge.
Oh, okay,
we called it in the Marine Corps the big chicken dinner.
Okay, all right. Well,
that's just what we called it.
I'll remember that. Yeah, we didn't have
big chicken dinner. That's just what we call. Well, I think it was because a lot of times when I was in the Marine Corps, most of the guys getting kicked out were usually for popping for drug tests, and a drug test violation was an automatic BCD. So somebody would just be like, it's like, what's going on? It's like, I'm getting the big chicken dinner.
Oh man.
And we knew what they were talking about.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of these expressions. I mean, somebody was talking in a message board. They said that somebody said they should make a Blue Falcon and Dynamite movie. I'm like, do you realize what the term Blue Falcon now means? Because we haven't had a Blue Falcon cartoon since like the 70s, and a lot has changed since the 70s. The term Blue Falcon, it now means buddy fucker. If in the Army, if you're a Blue Falcon, it means you're the kid in class who says, as soon as just like 2 seconds before the bell rings, teacher, you forgot to assign homework. That's a Blue Falcon. Okay. So
we never used the term Blue Falcon. We just called them the buddy fucker. We never had a euphemism for that one. Those were the guys you would literally be like, after the meeting, you'd be like, why are you trying to fuck us?
I really didn't know that was a term in the military, but now I'm wondering if that's why the latest Scooby-Doo and Blue Falcon movie didn't do so well.
There's a new Scooby-Doo movie out?
Well, it came out in 2023. I'm sorry, 2013. Sorry.
Yeah, I think with this Travis King thing, Darren, there's obviously more to the story. That's why, I have an opinion on it, but, I got to know more about this before I can make a fair judgment. Is he a deserter or is he someone who just unfortunately cracked?
Like a Section 8,
Section 8. Yeah, Section 8, exactly. Yeah. Well, so he came in when you said 2001? And
no, 2021. He enlisted in January 2021. So he's now into his third year.
Okay. So something must have happened between that time frame, because if he was having issues, if you're, some people don't understand the term administrative discharge. When like within like a certain amount of time you're in the military, they'll give you what's called an admin discharge. It's not a bad thing. It's not a great thing. It's just, it's easier on the paperwork. It's easier on the process. Like you couldn't conform to military life.
I'm sharing his picture, Vile, if you have the ability to share it.
Sorry, I was looking up something else.
That's him. So yeah, he's not going to be able to hide in North Korea. I don't care what he does. He's not going to be able. I mean, even so. Yeah. That's yeah. That's who's there. He seems to be probably is very tall. Judging by the length of his neck, he's probably a tall guy.
Oh yeah, definitely in the 6 foot area, I would imagine.
Yeah. But yeah, they got the Army got the old style camis back. They can wear those green ones again. Isn't that nice? A lot of brown now. Oh well.
I'm retired. I don't care.
Oh, the uniforms are. I looked up a bunch of changes that happened in my branch since I got out, and some of them were jaw dropping. I was really surprised. Wow, And then obviously the uniforms have all changed now. If I couldn't.
I'm sorry, guys. That was our fault. That was the Marine Corps. We decided we wanted to have. Look, I was in during that time. I'm sorry. It is completely our fault. I said back when we started going to those digi camis and we're testing, I was like, oh shit. Now every branch is going to want their own set of camis.
Oh, you were right about that. The not only did the Army get them, the Navy got, for a while there, they're called blueberries. They were digital blue camouflage, which were the dumbest idea ever. It was all done to save money because they could get bigger orders and say, order in bulk, right? And nobody stopped and said, well, wait a minute. If somebody is on a ship,
and they fall in the water, how are you going to find the fucker?
Yeah. So what they did now the Navy actually wears basically the Army camis. Yeah. They replaced the blueberries with the Army ones. So we look even less like sailors. The only time we look like sailors is in our dress uniforms. That's it. Otherwise, we look like generic
honestly, if I'm being honest, they should go back to the days of, you're on ship. It should go back to the days of the color coordinating. I knew where everybody worked based on the color of their goddamn shirt.
Oh yeah. It's
you never ever wear your regular uniform on the ship. You always wear what is it called now?
Dungarees, I think, is what most
not
dungarees. Coveralls, poopy suits,
whatever. Yeah, coveralls.
Yeah,
you always wear coveralls on the ship. Because number one, it's dirty as hell on the ship. It doesn't matter how many times you do cleaning stations or whatever. It's always going to be dirty,
Yeah. This is what the winter blues looked like when I was in. This is what you wear, like if you're on shore duty working in an office or something like that. Recruiters wore this in the office. And then, of course, when you got to be E6, this guy is an E6. When you get to be an E7 at chief, then you go to the khaki uniforms. But this to me,
all the pictures I have of my dad in the military, he's in khakis. So
yeah. So the but again, uniforms did change. The new one.
They switched everybody to khakis for the top now.
Right. I was going to show the picture here. Let's see. Do I have that? Do I have a picture of that shit? All right. Give me a second.
I'll tell you what, that new uniform that the Navy had while I was in active duty, where you guys went from taking your rank off your shoulders and putting bling on your freaking collars. And I'm sitting here saluting people that I don't even outrank, that I outrank. And they are like, but the whole thing is these people literally would be like, no, to the respect of the sailors, I'd be like, Oh, no, he's like, no, sorry. They were actually, it really bothered them to have that happen because they're like, no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I thought it caused
okay.
a lot more problems for the Navy than it did for the rest of us.
Yeah. So what we got now, and I'm going to show you a picture just of some guys doing a weapons load on a submarine here. Just to give you an idea, the camis we have actually aren't. They were initially modeled after the Marine Corps ones. So these are guys doing a weapons load on a submarine where they're starting to load it in, and these are shore-based personnel that escort the weapon to the weapons to the ship. They're wearing digital camouflage, but it's essentially the Marine Corps' camis. We only wear these now. These are what replaced the import dungaree uniform, and you got to wear all kinds of safety shit. No, I guess when you're loading weapons, we just wear ball caps, but they got to wear helmets, things like that. But no, the new office uniform, the equivalent of the one that I showed you, is called nicknamed the Peanut Butters. That's what they call them, and it's just like Positive Candor said, and I'm still trying to find an image in my collection of images here, but I just don't think I have one.
Darren, during my time in the Marine Corps, the only Navy I ever saw wear camis, and this was before the digis and stuff, the only people I ever saw wear camis were the Seabees.
Right, that was one of their signature things. Seabees, and anybody who worked for a construction battalion or in a Marine Corps Fleet Marine Force unit, here we go. No, that's not big enough. Okay, let me get size here. That's exciting, folks.
Yay, the tension.
Yeah, shipwreck.
Oh, where's the parrot? No. There's no parrot. It's not shipwreck.
Shipwreck was a bad boy too because he should have gold stripes, not red stripes.
Well, yeah, it's
Darren, you want to
weird.
explain that one to people since you're
okay? Hold on. Yeah, let me get the. Okay, so I got to compare it. Okay, so
hold on.
Sure.
I'm gonna go ahead. Keep going. I'm gonna look up something.
Okay, so Shipwreck's interesting because his uniform has actually a chief's symbol on his arm, not a first-class petty officer. They put the dome over the chevrons, indicating a chief's rank, even though he was wearing an E6 and below uniform. So, but they didn't know exactly what they were doing back then. But they got it most. I mean, you could tell he was a sailor. That was the point, right? But let's see.
All right, this is the new HasLab figure that just released for Shipwreck.
And it's so funny because we don't wear that anymore. In fact, when I was in boot camp, that's when they changed the regs that said you could no longer wear your white hat with your dungarees. You had to wear your command ball cap. And of course they had got rid of beards, except on for a couple of different places in the Navy. So, but generally speaking, Shipwreck, if he was conforming to uniform regs, would not be allowed to wear a beard like that. The rest of his weapons are kind of interesting, though. I like the parrot. I like the revolver, the grapple gun that has an anchor on it, and things. Yeah.
I've seen some pictures of my uncle when he was in the Navy before he retired, and he was back in when you could still have a beard in the Navy.
Yeah. Okay, so here's a comparison of what they wore. A typical office. We call them office blues. That on the left. That's like what I wore, and then this is on the right. That's what they wear now.
That's
no white hat.
That's a dress. That's a dress Charlie's, or not dress Charlie's. That's service Charlie's.
Yeah, isn't the left winter gear because it's black?
Right. They got rid of the seasonal uniform change. So the idea was to have less uniforms in a sailor's sea bag. So instead of having a pair of or a set of off its winter blues, and even though they are black, we call them blues.
Yeah.
And then having whites, summer whites, they decided to combine the two. So you got this new short sleeve uniform on the right that has a khaki shirt, and then black pants and belt and your black cunt cap.
You basically just took the Marine Corps Service Charlies. I mean, that's all it was.
Yeah, but
I mean, that's all that you really did. You just took the Marine Corps Service Charlies and modified them a little bit. Obviously,
I don't personally like it though. I don't personally like it just because.
No, the only sailors who should be wearing that are sailors who are in the Fleet Marine Force who have adopted the Marine regs.
Yeah,
that's my opinion.
But here's the thing that I have. The opinion I have is I think you look too much like a chief. I think that when you make E7, you should have this massive overhaul of what you get to wear, because that's a big deal when you become a chief. You become that senior enlisted, and when I first saw these guys, I saw them only from the waist up. I'm like, well, why is that E5 wearing khakis? And then the camera shows me more of him. Like, oh, he's not wearing full. It's not the choice I would have made. But here's
that would be like to be. I don't know. That's weird. That's like to me giving the E1 through E3 in the Marine Corps the blood stripe automatically.
Yeah. That's exactly. That's a good comparison there. Blood stripe is something you get. You get it when you get Lance Corporal or when you get full corporal.
When you get corporal, that's when it's called getting your stripe.
Gotcha.
See, when you make in the Marine Corps, when you make PFC, it's called we got our mosquito rings. When we make Lance Corporal, it's when we get our landing gear. And then when we make Corporal, it's when we got our stripe. And we're not talking about the extra stripe we got. We're talking about we've earned the blood stripe. And something I now have that I earned the right to have that my wife got me a few Christmases ago.
The saber?
Right to have the Marine Corps NCO sword.
That's nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Which was one of the few things I did not have, and I said I wanted it because I was a corporal in the Marine Corps, and I earned the right to have it.
Right, and a lot of guys, they wouldn't buy it unless they got embassy duty or something like that, and then they'd have to have it as part of their getup. But it's good to have one anyway, just because you've earned the right to have one.
Yeah, exactly. I was actually very fascinated by the NCO sword more than the officer's Mamluk sword, because I'd watch how our DIs would use it when they do their ceremonial salutes and stuff, and I was like, watch how they'd flick, and I was like, that is so fucking cool.
We didn't get a sword. Here, let me go ahead and turn my camera on for a second here. New. There I am. All right, this is Sailor's Dagger.
Oh,
Your
nice.
camera's not on.
Wow.
Oh wait, now
Yeah,
it is. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So it's a dagger. It's obviously it's something you would want for below decks. Obviously, it's a little bit less wieldy than a sword, but for a change of command ceremony, some of us had to wear these, and I'm like, I'm keeping mine.
Yeah, that's a knife. That's a knife, man.
Yeah, it's the equivalent of a Rambo knife, just with Navy styling, basically.
Yeah,
I was
if
gonna say,
the
it
hilt
looks like something that someone would design for a fantasy series.
yeah, if the hilt unscrew
Yeah.
the compass, it has a little fishing gear and matches in it. It's a Rambo knife. Otherwise,
For the Marine Corps, I'll tell you what, our knife of choice, K-bar.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
We actually used to. I was actually very. This is one of the areas I'm going to say I was a little offended. I gave money to every time there was a going away. When I left the unit, I didn't get a K-bar like everybody else did.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, if that's the ultimate fuck you, I guess so be it.
Yeah, it's sometimes it's all about when you were in. It's funny. I was reading about Navy divers. I had a couple friends on board the ship, the boat, that were divers. Now back then, being a diver was a qualification. So we had one yeoman who was a diver, qualified diver. We had one machinist mate. We had one sonarman, right? In 2006, the Navy changed diving from a qualification to an actual rate.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's called NDs, Navy divers. And I wonder, I'm trying to get an answer to, and if you want to be a diver, it's something you gotta have it in your contract, and that's your job, right? And I'm thinking to myself, well, okay, that's weird because submarines needed people to be qualified diving in order to make minor repairs underway to the outside of the hull while we're at sea. We had to have them, and usually most ships had between 2 and 3. So do they have NDs, Navy divers now, dedicated divers on the submarines, or do they still get to be a qualification? And I'm still trying to get an answer from people who have been in more recently, because that puzzles me. Or maybe they just don't do the repairs until they get into port and they have base divers do them. But maybe they're clearly doing things differently now than when I was in.
Yeah, I was talking to, some things, unfortunately, they're still doing the same. I actually reconnected with a buddy of mine from my back when I was in the Marine Corps unit. Actually, last night, we had been in touch before, but I think his Facebook account or whatever got deleted, and he just reconnected me. And, we're just shooting the shit, talking about the old days. But, man, I tell you what, leadership really makes or breaks whether people stay in or not.
Yeah.
And
really.
Yeah, it shouldn't, but unfortunately, him and I were talking.
No, I said it should. I said it should.
Yeah.
It should.
Oh, should. Yeah, it should.
Yeah.
Well, you should want to have, you should have good leadership experience. But him and I were talking, and it's the same thing a lot of us from that unit talk about, because I still keep in touch with a lot of guys from that unit, about 5 or 6 of us. And there were about 20 or 30 of us in that radio unit. And, man, some of the stuff he was saying, I was just cracking. I was like, yeah, that good old boy system they had. He was like, Gunny Hoopy. I'm like, yeah, that fucking prick. We had, our leadership, I kid you not, we would have this issue like when this Gunny would go on leave, this staff sergeant would want to change things throughout our radio office. So we changed them. And then let Gunny come back, and then we had to go change them back, and they'd have a pissing match.
Right. Yeah, it was. Yeah, we ran into shit like that too.
Well, we ran into an issue that I think really bothered a lot of us, the married Marines especially. So, like, we had these times, you go to formation to get dismissed in the Marine Corps. 4:30 rolls around. If you ain't been dismissed by formation, you ain't going home. Fucking leadership be in the back, running their mouths, doing whatever they're doing. And here's the thing. It's 4:30. The chow hall closes at 1600. By 5 o'clock.
That's 4 o'clock. Yeah, that's 4 o'clock for people listening.
Oh, sorry. No, sorry. We're supposed to get off work at 16:30, 4:30. The chow hall closes at 6 p.m. 5 p.m. rolls around. Our corporals would be like, we'd be like, okay, if you live in the barracks, go to the chow hall, grab a bag, get back. One time they freaking came out and they were like, where the fuck is everyone? We're like, we sent them to get a bag. You're like, they can get a bag after formation. And dismissed. The corporal the senior corporal we had, literally was like, sir, it's 1750. The chow hall closes at 1800.
Yeah.
And, those guys didn't get BAS. They didn't get a food allowance like, us married guys did.
Right.
If they didn't get their food from the chow hall, it was out of their goddamn pocket.
Right.
Sorry, you got me a little passionate there about that.
Well, yeah, you had a bit of a flashback there, didn't you? Just a tiny bit of it, one maybe.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Hey, speaking of married people, if you guys are on Twitter, give us congrats to Corin Nemec. He got married to Sabrina Nova today.
To who?
Sabrina Nova.
Okay, I know who Corin Nemec is, but who's the person he got married to?
His soulmate. He said he's never met anybody else like her before. They got married today, or they're getting married in an hour or so. But they're getting hitched today.
So I guess Parker Lewis can't lose.
Nope, he can't.
Yeah, I bet you thought I was going to make a Stargate reference. Didn't think I knew that far back.
Yeah, I know you're old.
I liked Ferris Bueller can't, or Parker Lewis can't lose. Sorry.
Yeah, it did have a Ferris Bueller vibe to it, didn't it?
It was like Ferris. I mean, because there was a competing Ferris Bueller show on ABC, I think, and yeah, at the same time, and I think Fox just outdid them by having a more outrageous, less realistic version with Parker Lewis. The thing that I liked about Parker Lewis is it's so freaking 80s. When I watched that thing, his parents owned a VHS store, a video store. That's what and that was those were new back then. And they all wore swatches, synchronized swatches.
Yep,
right?
synchronized swatches. Oh my god, I remember that.
Yeah, and then
the Steiner, but the biggest mystery, the Steiner jacket and all its secrets.
It was magic. You could pull anything out of it, and then
right, hold on. Elihu, who did you say you married? Because I literally just typed in Corin Nemec married, and I looked up the news tab. And nothing is showing up whatsoever. And it's like lists of other celebrities who dated or married people. And I'm like, what was her name? So I could figure out who the hell she is, see if I recognize her from something.
She's not an actress.
Oh, okay. I assumed it was an actress. I probably shouldn't have.
She's not an actress.
The other thing was that he wore a rayon.
Sorry, hang on, Dad. I'm gonna put a Twitter account in the chat for you. Okay. Sorry, go ahead, Dad.
Yeah, it's okay. The Parker Lewis wore a rayon shirt that was buttoned all the way to the top, but it was untucked. That was how you wore those shirts back then, too.
Yep.
Like it was an art smock or something. It was like.
Well, yeah. You don't usually tuck in rayon shirts because they wrinkle too easily.
Right,
not a problem.
But I mean,
or as Parker would say, not a problem.
You could also have regular fabric shirts that still had the same kind of paisley pattern, and you would not tuck those in. You would butt them all the way to the top as if you're going to wear a tie, but you didn't wear the tie. It was weird, and and then they had the one guy who was trying to dress like James Dean all the time. He was.
Oh, was that the vice principal? No, not the vice principal. The vice principal is the one who always wanted Steiner's jacket.
Well, the vice principal was the evil, was portrayed like a comic book villain in that show. But the three characters were Parker, this James Dean looking guy, and then he had the Steiner, Steiner with the Steiner jacket, and he was like Spangler from the Ghostbusters. But no, there was the third guy usually had either a leather jacket or a denim jacket with ripped sleeves, and he had a motorcycle. I don't think we ever saw him on the motorcycle, but he always talked about his motorcycle on the show.
What, are you talking about Fonzie?
No, I'm talking about Parker Lewis. Parker Lewis can't lose. It was a
it's
a Fox
interesting.
show.
I know the character he's talking about, and what's crazy, Darren, is he's the least memorable character from that show.
He is. Okay, so I've got a picture of the cast here.
Yeah, Cuppa in that picture as well.
I can't even remember that guy's name on the show.
Hold on. Here it is. And put it in the right browser because for some reason I don't use Google Chrome like I should.
Oh, by the way, this TV show was such bullshit because you had it was like you had a preppy, a geek, and a jock all being best friends. Well,
I don't think he was a jock. I think he was supposed to be like an edgy Sierra. What do they call it?
California guy.
Sigma male. So here they are. So the big guy that's hugging them all was like this ogre student that was in the show.
Larry Kubiak.
Yep, cool.
Yeah, and then you had Parker in the middle. The guy on the right is the guy I was talking about, the least memorable of the trio. And he had the big floppy hair. And he had a denim jacket that looked very similar to leather. It was kind of weird. But he always wore the white T-shirt. He was the James Dean looking guy. And then you had the Jewish kid on the left that was
Yeah, the thing is, though,
brains.
he was the least memorable character. I remember Larry
He was.
Kubiak way better.
Yeah.
Also, didn't this guy go on to have a career as a character actor for a long time on ER?
Which one?
The big guy, the guy who played Kubiak.
Coop.
Yeah, I
Kubiak.
saw him. He had a regular role on the Roseanne Barr's sitcom because he would often play the John Goodman character when he was a teenager. Yeah.
I see that too. He does look like a young John Goodman in there.
Yeah, he was a frequent heavyweight. He would come in and they'd do a memory scene of when, Roseanne and Dan were teenagers, and he'd always play Dan. But yeah, that was the other thing I'd seen him in.
I had seen him play a lot in the ER. He wasn't a main character. He was
what?
What
era was this show? I don't remember anything about this show.
Okay. Here, let me.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off TV show.
Yeah, literally, it is Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
But it's even more out of like reality though. It was way more fantasy than anything. It ran from 1990 to 1993. Made by Columbia Pictures during the last season. The season rebranded as Parker Lewis instead of Parker Lewis Can't Lose. Series depicts the tribulations of the title character, Parker Lewis, a Santo Domingo high school student for whom nothing is impossible. It was strongly influenced by the feature film Ferris Bueller's Day Off, but they did have a Ferris Bueller's Day Off show that debuted the same fall, and it crashed and burned, but this one took off.
Despite the fact that I did watch TV like this when I was that age, this show was aired when I was 5 to 8.
Okay.
So that's my excuse for not knowing anything about it.
That's all right. You're doing fine.
I mean, I was still into Power Rangers back then. I mean, I still like Power Rangers occasionally, especially when I'm watching with my kids. But I was much more into that stuff back then.
Well, I was 9 or 10 when that show came out, so it was kind of, perfect for my age. And as far as Power Rangers, I was outside that age bracket. The only reason I was even watching it was because I had a step brother who was into it, and I was, trying to connect with him or whatever.
Yeah, I was in high school when Parker Lewis came out, so
So you could relate to it.
Yeah, me too.
It was escapist fiction for me.
Yeah, literally for you, Darren, it was like, oh, I so would love to have done this.
Yeah, and what's funny is whenever I want to remember how people dress, because that was one of the things about it, they actually dressed the way, at least Parker Lewis himself did, the way I remember the preppy people would dress when I was in high school, even in a bumfuck Wisconsin high school like mine. We had a lot of guys wearing John Deere hats and things too, but we had people that.
But you had those preppy guys, they had their style of dress back in the day.
And I dressed in the preppy style because my mom liked that better. So,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Yeah, Parker Lewis is kind of like if you watch it, it's obviously not reality because, for example, there's a scene where one of the bad guys, and there's this kid that's like a toady for the vice principal who looks like Steven Seagal. He's got his hair, long black hair that's swept back into a tight ponytail like Steven Seagal used to have it back in the late 80s. And he wears all black, and he's like, and so he manages to steal. He finds in a trash can the Signer jacket, right, which has all these, reality warping abilities. And he tries it on. He goes, "What's in this pocket?" And they make it, and they show a Doberman, a snarling Doberman head coming out of the pocket. He's like, security system, and he's like,
yeah, I remember that episode. Security system activated.
Yeah, exactly. And then he's got a Doberman in the coat. It's like,
Finally, the Steiner jacket and all its secrets. I'm like, God damn, I cannot believe I remember this show so well.
Yeah.
This show was just so much fun and not a problem.
Yeah.
Miss Musso, God, Miss Musso was such a fucking trip. The principal.
Yeah, the vice principal was like, she was like Lex Luthor trying to defeat Superman. She was trying to get, I think, Parker expelled or something. It was, and it was cartoony. It was very, very cartoony, but
It really was.
Because it threw everything into it. It was balls to the wall. It didn't apologize for itself or anything. That's, I think, what made it work.
What about the day when they were doing the DJ thing in the school, and he was like, "News of the day, things you wish the teacher would say, things you wish you heard." Miss Musso says, "Take the rest of the day off," and everybody leaves the fucking school.
Oh God, I'm looking at, just because you guys got me thinking about it, I'm like, what shows actually, debuted in 1990 along with this show, and I'm like, I'm shocked that some of them were actually that old and I didn't realize it. Like Beverly Hills 90210. I didn't realize that started in 90 because I watched.
I used to watch that show all the time.
That show.
Yeah, I remember when
that and Melrose Place.
I remember when 90210 when 90210
let him get it.
Did that episode about gun safety, and one of the characters who started early on in the show but was kind of written out was killed off because of fucking around with a gun. He drops it, he shoots it. Brian Austin Green just lost his friend, and it was kind of like that was the first time in my life I had understood gun safety.
Right.
Well, let's see. Other shows that debuted that I'm kind of shocked about. The Adventures of Super Mario Brothers 3. I assume that was an 80s show, not a 90s show. Same with Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Oh, I remember that.
I think all those
Bobby's
80s cartoon
World.
show. Bobby's World.
Brewster's Place. Both things I thought was later in the 90s.
I heard of them, but never saw either one of them.
Bobby's World?
No, I heard of it, never saw it.
Let's see, what else? Things that people have actually heard of. Well, I knew The Flash came out and The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I didn't realize it was that early in the 90s, but that's another show that I watched as it came out.
Fresh Prince was so great back in the day.
I mean, hell, I even used a clip for it in one of the recent Kinder videos.
Fresh Prince had so many great family values, just absolutely.
And it wasn't what a lot of people thought it was.
The It miniseries came out in 90. I thought that was a late 90s thing.
The what miniseries?
No, the It miniseries did come out in 1990.
Because I remember watching that and getting it scaring the shit out of me. Because again, I was like 5 years old, so.
So did V.
Well, that version of Pennywise was pretty scary. I mean, Tim Curry did a pretty good job there.
You got to give Tim Curry credit for the minimum amount of time he was actually on camera.
Yeah,
he made the most of it.
He did, yeah.
Oh,
and I actually have both Pennywise. I have his and I have Skarsgård's, and I respect them both for the roles they played as Pennywise.
Northern Exposure. If you had told me or asked me what year Northern Exposure came out, I would have said probably like 80 something.
93.
Right.
Mid-80s.
Okay, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I know Northern Exposure is a real kind of popular thing. I couldn't get into it.
Yeah. Well, I had a school teacher who was huge into that show, along with China Beach.
Never saw that either.
Never saw that.
Wings came out in 1990. Yeah. If you would have asked me, I would have probably said 95.
Nope, 1990. I loved Wings.
Tony Shalhoub.
Twin Peaks.
By the way, Elihu, if you remember, Tony Shalhoub was not one of the original actors.
I know.
He originally was like a waiter, and then he became the taxi driver.
Yeah, there's roles.
and of course, there's a bunch of other shows that I'm just not listing because they're not as popular or like people wouldn't remember it. I think.
Hey, don't forget V, okay?
V
That was
was
80s.
V is not on this list.
Oh,
I don't know why?
sorry.
V was
Yeah.
like 1981, wasn't it?
It was early '80s. It was
Oh,
like
yeah.
it was
Sorry.
the show that what's his face
Robert
Kenneth
Englund.
Johnson that Kenneth Johnson made after he finished his Incredible Hulk TV series. He did V. So a year after the Hulk, got canceled or ended, that's when V came out.
Oh, really? The guy who did Hulk did V.
Yeah, the guy who did
No wonder
Kenneth
it was
Johnson.
so fucking good.
Yeah, Kenneth Johnson did. He did in the '70s. He was the showrunner for Bionic Woman, the $6 Million Man Off. Then he did the Hulk, and then he did V. Those are his three big things that he did in that time period for television.
Well, that's a hell of an accomplishment because that's some big shit.
Yeah.
Well,
V
for
was
$6
very
million,
intense.
I can get a new ankle. That's about it.
Now, think about V. What I loved about V, especially the first part, was the Jewish grandfather.
Yeah.
He knew what was coming. I mean, he
Well-
was the one literally foreshadowing everything that was about to happen.
Now, here's my question though. Do you think V is the reason we got people nowadays that think that the world is actually populated by lizard people trying to take over the world?
It helped.
Oh, I think V was inspired by that idea.
Yeah, it helped, dude. Yeah.
I could care fucking like. You want to honestly know my opinion? Okay, here's the thing. If there's intelligent life out there, which I think there is, why the fuck would they want to waste our time with our backwater fucking world?
The aliens just drive by with the windows up. Come on.
Okay, Elihu, seriously. If you were an advanced alien species, would you really recommend, hey, when you get in the Milky Way again, let's see that solar system.
Sorry.
That third planet from the sun, yeah,
Second.
don't stop for gas there. They're fucking primitive as hell.
All right, Darren, remind me. Were you one of the were you the people that is a fan of Conan the Barbarian?
Yes.
Okay, according to the Wikipedia article, when it says under the reptilian conspiracy, the origins posits the idea of the reptilian conspiracy originated in the fiction of Conan the Barbarian in the story The Shadow Kingdom, published in Weird Tales 1929.
Oh.
So, no, it wasn't V that's the fault. It's fucking Conan, and that's why we have people think of that shit.
All right. So here's my question for you guys. I love Conan the Barbarian. Cannot stand Conan the Destroyer. Your guys' thoughts?
Well, neither of them are actually very accurate to Robert E. Howard's character, but as a generic barbarian movies, they're both pretty good. But one is definitely more serious than the other. I mean, Conan's origin is very different than what we saw in the first film with Arnold, and what they actually did was they borrowed an origin from a different myth to give it the whole Wheel of Pain thing, But I think that Arnold looked enough like a barbarian. You went to see that movie to see a guy who looked like somebody from a Frazetta painting, and Arnold did look like that, especially when they gave him the wig with the long hair and stuff. So I like them both. I think that the second movie is a little bit more generic fantasy than barbarian fantasy, but
To be honest, I think I'm one of those weird people. I think Conan the Destroyer was a better film.
You think so? You thought the humor added more to it? No, I'm being serious.
I don't know. I'm just maybe it's because I saw it first before I saw Conan the Barbarian. I always liked the Conan the Destroyer as a better film, in my opinion.
Fun fact, when I saw the first time I ever saw James Earl Jones was in Conan the Barbarian, right? The next time I saw him was in a movie called Soul Man, and I was surprised to find out he was actually black. Because as Thulsa Doom, they sort of gave him, they lightened his skin up and gave him a straight hair wig, which made him look, if anything, more like a Native American, right? But I was like, he's black. I didn't know that.
Oh, really? I
Yeah.
assumed from I actually just figured from Conan the Barbarian he was black from the beginning. I never really
He
thought
was Egyptian. He was, and you got to remember also that the common
okay, well,
portrayal of
Egyptian is obviously different.
yeah,
Well, they're black Egyptians.
the common portrayal of Egyptians back then was that they were white. The Cecil B. DeMille types.
Yeah.
But, so we still kind of had that image in our heads, I guess, when Thulsa Doom was there, and they purposely made James Earl Jones look less sub-Saharan African. They lighten. He's obviously got makeup on that lightens his skin. The straight hair obviously is another thing that doesn't look,
most Egyptians, the people I've met from Northern Africa, have a Middle Eastern descent look to them.
Right. Yeah. They do.
Oh, sorry.
Modern ones, yeah.
I'm listening to the conversation, but I'm also still on that Wikipedia page. This is something scary. According to public policy polling, it indicated that 4% of registered American voters back in 2013 believe in the reptilian conspiracy.
Oh.
That's 1 in 25 people.
Yeah.
1 in 25 registered voters.
Yeah.
Well, we're allowing mental illness to run rampant, so hey, it is what it is.
Thank you, Reagan.
Oh wait,
Reagan, you want to blame that on Reagan? Really, Elihu?
Darren, the reptilian conspiracy is not one of the ones you believe in, right?
No.
Oh, okay, just making sure.
But I love reading. I love reading about it because it is an interesting idea. See, I'm able to entertain a thought without believing it too. So the only conspiracies I really sort of tend to believe in are ones that involve the natural world, like the one plus Sasquatch and cryptids and things like that. That's about it. I don't believe that we've been infiltrated by aliens that are lizards and things. But
you know what? When somebody said, "Do you think aliens have infiltrated our leadership?" I'm like, well, at this point, they couldn't do worse than we've done.
Why just America? Why not?
Now, angels and demons and fallen angels, I do tend to believe in, and there are some theories that fallen angels might look very serpentine, but it's interesting stuff to read.
Well, it's interesting. There was an interesting movie I watched called Nefarious, and it talked about the term angels and demons, and that was brought up, and I was like, wow, that's actually a pretty good way to view it. Unfortunately, it is a R-rated Christian movie, so I can't expect.
I still haven't got around to watching that. I plan on watching it, though.
You actually plan on watching Nefarious?
Yes. It actually sounds like
I'm
saying that as someone who doesn't really like those.
Never heard of it.
Well, if you actually when you do watch it, Mike, I would love to hear your opinion. As someone who's of obviously a different faith than me.
Well, if by different faith you mean lack thereof.
I guess. I mean, what do you want to say? How am I supposed to describe what an atheist believes?
Someone who has a lack of a belief.
But you have a belief, don't you?
Yeah.
No.
An atheist is somebody who does not believe in the Judeo-Christianity.
No, it's not just that. Okay, think of it this way.
Secular humanism.
Well, you can be a secular humanist and an atheist. You can be a secular humanist and a Christian. It's just
no, you can't.
No, you can't. No, you can't.
No, by definition, you cannot be a secular humanist and a Christian.
Yes,
listen,
you can.
take it from a Christian.
You can't.
Not be an atheist and a Christian. It ain't gonna work.
No, it's not going to work. They're two mutually exclusive ideas.
Not Well, I would disagree.
What does the word secular mean?
Non-religious.
There you go.
Essentially.
There you
So
go.
you're non-religious. I am religious. Those are two ideological oppositions.
Hold on.
Just like just like with me and a Buddhist and a Muslim.
That's like, Salty
those
Trekker
are
calls
religious
himself
ideological. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Darren.
I'm sorry, I steamrolled right over the top of you. Go ahead.
Okay.
I was just saying, when it comes to the Muslim faith and the Buddhist faith, and the various things. And I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
Okay, basically, you are technically you are correct, and I'm going to grant you that. If you're what they're talking about is the overall moral structure of a humanist in general, and you can have a humanist of any faith, and it's usually someone who's a humanist of those faiths. Add to that ethic their metaphysical commitments to their faith, in addition to their broader commitments to humanism.
All right, Mike, I'm going to ask you a question because I've heard that term a lot of times. Define to me your view. What is a humanist?
Basically, it is someone that tries to maximize freedom and minimize harm with any action.
Oh, they worship humanity is what they really do.
Say that again?
They don't say they do, but that's what they do.
That's the goal. That's the broader concept of the goal.
What is the goal?
But yeah,
with any action to minimize harm and maximize freedom.
right. But they worship.
Can I
worship
be
humanity.
honest with you, Mike?
Yeah.
How can that mutually work when it sounds like? Now I'm going to be honest with you. That sounds like to me like you're trying to say we want to be tolerant and accepting, and then you can fill in the rest.
I'm just confused about the statement "worship humanity."
But you
It's
look
not
at Salty
worshiping
Trekker, for
humanity,
example.
Well,
that's what they do, though.
Yeah,
That's
what is that? What does that mean?
They put humanity above God, and that's from a Christian's perspective, that's what they are. But it's like, it reminds me, it's a contradiction in terms. A secular humanist can't be a Christian the same way Salty Trekker can't be a free-thinking Christian objectivist. Objectivism is strictly an atheist ideology. So he's providing a contradiction in terms.
You were technically correct. What I would say is you can be a humanist and a Christian. I was wrong.
No, you can't be.
Sure you can.
You're right on that one. You can't be both.
You can be a humanist, maybe not a secular humanist, but you can be a Christian humanist. You can be a Jewish humanist. You can be a Muslim humanist, a Buddhist humanist.
Isn't like Travolta saying you can either be the Beatles fan or I've got another one.
Uma Thurman.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mike. Based on what you said about humanist, no, that actually does not work with most religious faiths.
And that's what they say they are, not what they actually are.
Oh,
Hey,
and we got Caddy in the chat.
Hey.
Now,
yeah, me too.
Well, I'm trying to understand Mike's interpretation here because it's confusing the shit out of me.
No.
Well, basically,
what other shows come out in 1990?
What we're talking about is a moral system.
No,
Small Wonder, Out of This World. What else came out in the 90s? Growing Pains.
See, a world system
Growing
is
Pains
also
came out of the 80s.
Well, we're talking 1998 specifically.
No, Growing Pains came out in the 80s.
I thought you said groin pains. I'm like, what's wrong with you?
Saved by the Bell.
There are different labels that people can attach to themselves regardless. So I know plenty of people that, attach to themselves that Christian moniker that other Christians say, you don't qualify in my book. So
Satanists don't think of themselves as Satanists either.
Say that again?
Satanists don't think of themselves as Satanists either. So I mean, it's
Well, it depends. There's the Satanists that do it for the lulz that are technically atheists, and then there's the Satanists that actually believe in Satan, which would technically make them Christian.
Let me ask you this:
the doctrine
am
of the Satanic Church.
am I an anti-Christian for not going to church because I believe church is in my heart?
What, sweetheart?
Isn't she online? Get on here, Caddy. You know what a link is. Kids.
Yeah, the link's there. Come on up. That way I can admonish you for a second.
Why do you want to admonish Caddy?
It's a kid.
run, cat, flee.
When you work today? I don't work today.
That means he's not going to make you work.
But I'm in Mexico right now. So just come on up.
Wait a minute. Come on up. What? She's in Mexico too?
Caddy's not. I don't think she's in Mexico. She could be. I don't know.
You don't know what you're
Well,
kidding. It's 10
that
o'clock.
doesn't mean
Do you know where you're trying
she's in
to
America.
She's
So wait a
19
minute, she's
years
in
old.
America?
She's an adult. She could come to Mexico if she wants.
No,
Mike?
I'm saying, is she in America?
Mike, it's 11 o'clock. Do you know what your children are?
No. Elihu! You
I know where 3 of my
miserable.
kids are for sure.
We're talking about the
And
90s. Come
time
on.
is 10 o'clock.
Okay. Well, it is 11 o'clock, but still.
Yeah, but that's not how
I know how it works.
You gotta do it, get it right. Mike, now what I was saying was, if she's in America and you're saying come up to Mexico, shouldn't it be come down to Mexico?
Oh, she's saying she
Depends.
just got back from El Centro.
Unless she's in Puerto Rico.
Yeah,
She can't come up to
unless
So,
or unless
so
you're
basically what you're
looking
saying that instead of going to your younger siblings' play, you went to frickin' El Centro. And you said you didn't have the money to go to the drive 40 miles to the...
Mike, no offense, man, but air your dirty laundry on your own time.
I'm just giving her shit.
I know you are, but you know how that shit can go out of hand. Where is El Centro?
It's like halfway between San Diego and Yuma.
Oh, okay. Well, I know where both those places are, so okay.
So how about have you been avoiding downtown?
Boyfriends, sister related stuff. So in other words, bullshit. Hey, Vilemike. I'm your father's brother's nephew's cousin's former roommate.
What does that make us?
Absolutely nothing. I'm sorry, man. I saw that. That just popped in my head.
You know, it's funny because several model makers have apparently approached Winnebago over the years to see if they could make a Winnebago model kit from Spaceballs, and they've always said no. And it's because they want to change their image from these raggedy old, dingy sort of, campers to the newer ones they've got now. But I'd still like to have a Eagle 5 Winnebago model kit.
Oh, Darren, I've tried to look for an Eagle 5, but yeah, I've had no luck myself.
Yeah,
I've seen people take the old Hot Wheels toys and modify them, but that's about it.
Oh, really?
You'd almost, they did make toy Winnebagos back a long time ago, and so, but you can get a model kit for a standard like passenger jet, and put wings on that, and then it's almost to scale, but an actual one. because one of the things that, and I was scripting a video for this on the channel, but I was going to say it. I guess I'll say it here anyway. You know, some of our favorite ships are actually clunkers, right? So the Millennium Falcon, we think it's cool, but everybody in universe seems to think it's a piece of junk, right? The TARDIS is also an antiquated TARDIS as well. It's not top of the line. It's, you know, older. Firefly, you know, the Serenity was not looked at as a very nice vehicle by a lot of people on the show.
The
and
Cerritos.
you know, so the Cerritos, yes, not the pride of the fleet, certainly, you know, but
The what?
Cerritos, lower decks. Lower decks, dude.
yeah.
All right.
Oh,
I was trying to show on the map. If you look at the edge of the yellow, that's like the furthest edge of San Diego. And if you look where the I-8 ends at where the Arizona border would be, that's Yuma. So yeah, El Centro is almost right in the middle, maybe a little bit closer to Yuma than it is San Diego.
Okay. Oh, okay. You know, we had one time, I'll never forget this, when I was at 29 Palms in California, and we were in training school, and one of our poor guys, we were out on weekend leave, and he fell asleep on the bus, missed his stop. The fucking Marines did not get him, and the bus driver literally had to stop and was like, sir. And he waits and goes, yeah, is this my stop? He goes, I don't think so. You're the last person here. He goes, where am I at? He goes, the Mexican border. This is where I stop.
Well, with that, I'm actually going to end the stream only because I got a Geloja again, and it's been 3 hours. So I'm going to play the video of Caddy again, and that'll be the end of the stream. So later, folks.
Right.
Later, weirdos.
All right. You're 19 years old now. I figure it's about time you got one after all your complaining. All right.
Kill.